The left wing of the Democratic Party has never been crazy about Joe Biden. The latest flashpoint source tells CNN the administration will approve a huge new oil drilling project called Willow on federal land in northern Alaska. Environmentalists see it as a betrayal. Former Vice President Al Gore calls it recklessly irresponsible and a recipe for climate chaos. Progressives are already frustrated by Biden's recent moves to the right on crime and immigration. And here's what the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus told me on Friday, offering this warning to the president.
I think the progressives and the president have agreed on so much. I hope that as we go into the next 2 years, he continues to be the strong, principled president he's been and doesn't shy away from doing things that are based on principle, not politics.
What are your sources, Catherine, telling you inside the White House about why the White House seems to be moving in this direction?
Well, I mean, a couple of things, Manu. There is, I think, on some of these issues, some distinctions. So we've had recent moves from the president on crime, conversations on immigration, on drilling. On crime specifically, the White House really argues that this isn't a move, that he has always been very clear he wasn't part of the defund the police effort, that he's been vocal about funding the police, and that some of the frustration on this really comes down to, and it's, I mean, obviously it's technical, but this legislation got tangled up with DC, it's an issue with the DC home rule. I don't want to belabor it, but a lot of the lawmakers feel like he blindsided them, deciding that he would not support a DC crime law. And so I think that is a slightly different thing compared to immigration and drilling, where people do really feel like he's shifting away from some of his campaign promises.
Yeah.
And obviously this comes at a moment where he's looking to run for re-election. We expect him to run for re-election. These are issues, especially crime and immigration, are issues that Republicans are really going to target. And he is, Joe Biden is pretty good at sensing where his party is, trying to get to the middle on issues. And I think that's sort of in keeping with his career.
Welcome to another episode of the Nick and CJ show on Monday. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's great to be back. Another week of RBN content. Welcome to Nick and CJ. I hope you guys had a great weekend. We did. If you guys didn't get a chance, make sure you guys check out the conversation we had with Jimmy Dore. Always fun when we have Jimmy on. But my boy CJ starting the week with a banger video, like he always does. And you guys saw my reaction there. They was like, the progressive's not happy. Camilla John-Paul came to speak with us, and she was not happy. But you want to hear what she had to say? She was like, Biden, I know you're great. I know you're awesome. You're amazing. Keep showing people how amazing you are. You disappoint us here, but you're still amazing. He's like, that's your criticism?
It's unserious.
So this is what they said to say. Joe Biden's been very principled thus far. He's been great thus far, but I hope he improves. That's your criticism.
It's so ridiculous. It's such an unserious approach.
Again.
Say again. You want to play that again? Let's
sorry. Finish your point and then play that part where right when they introduced Camilla and her comment. You cannot parody this shit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you cannot parody.
No. That's
I didn't see this. Like just go to the part right when they introduce Pramila.
Oh my god!
And go to,
here we go.
And let him speak for like a few seconds because he's like Pramila Jayapal and Progressive Caucus are not happy, and then they point to Pramila who praises Biden.
And a recipe for climate chaos. Progressives are already frustrated by Biden's recent moves to the right on crime and immigration. And here's what the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus told me on Friday, offering this warning to the president.
Warning.
This
is the warning.
This is the warning.
Yeah, like one of those warnings on your mattress. Don't rip this off. That's about as much warning this is.
I think the progressives and the president have agreed on so much. I hope that as we go into the next 2 years, he can.
Like what? Billions to Ukraine?
The dude, CJ, this is hilarious. The guy before they introduced Pramila was like, Joe Biden literally betrayed all his progressive campaign promises. If you look at crime, if you look at climate, if you look at all this stuff, then Pramila immediately comes on and contradicts the facts that he says. He's like, well, actually, if you think about it, we actually agree with a lot with Biden, actually. It is just one thing. And they continue, it can actually get worse. Look at what you said the second part. This is a
Let's
warning.
play the second part. Let's play the second part.
He continues to be the strong principled president he's been and doesn't shy away from doing things that are based on principle, not
The
politics.
strong principled president that he is. The strong principle. That's the warning. The warning. Oh my God, he's a strong principled president. Keep it up, please, sir. Keep great.
Usually in a warning, Nick. Usually in a warning, there's a warning that you could be hurt. There's damage ahead. What did she say that said anything like damaging? You better not do this or else.
Imagine if I was
ultimatum.
like,
go ahead.
Imagine if Nick warned CJ. I got frustrated with you. I'm like, CJ, I'm tired of you being based. Okay, stop coming on the show with good political opinions. I'm warning you. Continue to show that principle, sir. I know we agree on most things. Okay, yeah, like that's it. That's what you have to say.
This is
it's
terrible.
Unbelievable. Let's play just a little bit more of this, and we can continue.
Absolutely. Welcome, new member Steve, new member to the channel. And let's finish out this video for the introduction. Let's listen.
What are your sources, Catherine, telling you inside the White House about why the White House seems to be moving in this direction?
Well, I mean, a couple of things, Manu. There is, I think, on some of these issues, some distinctions. So we've had recent moves from the president on crime, conversations on immigration, on drilling. On crime specifically, the White House really argues that this isn't.
Yes, sir.
That's three big things. It's not like small disagreements. She said crime, immigration, and climate. Those are three categories not to agree with someone on. Pramila Jayapal is like, we agree mostly. We've been agreeing mostly on these things. On what? Funding Ukraine. Is that what you're talking about?
And to your point that you always make, Nick, where you say, oh, lesser of two evils. No, you are giving them a mandate. And she alludes to it in the video. Yep. She goes to say, yeah, crime and this, but he didn't really shift on that. He told y'all shit from the jump that he wasn't with this defund the police. Let me let her say it. And then we can discuss.
Yeah. Go ahead.
My bad.
This isn't a move, that he has always been very clear.
So it was mid-sentence. Let me back it up just a little bit.
Specifically, the White House really argues that this isn't a move, that he has always been very clear he wasn't part of the defund the police effort, that he's been vocal about funding the police, and that some of the frustration on this really comes down to, and obviously it's technical, but this legislation got tangled up with DC, to issue with the DC home rule. I don't want to belabor it, but a lot of the lawmakers feel like he blindsided them, deciding that he would not support a DC crime law. And so
she's delicately tiptoeing around another issue that Biden, sold us out on, sold the Democrats out on, and progressives in particular are not going to do nothing. Remember that we covered it, the DC crime bill, or maybe I covered it, where the Washington DC mayor vetoed the bill, but they overrode the bill. They overrode the veto. So she's Democrat. The legislator is Democrat in DC. They do this crime bill that significantly lowers sentencing, all this crime reform. They get it passed. They say we ain't doing this shit. So the Republicans gain power. They have this home rule since DC is not really a state. They control it. They passed this thing to nullify that new law. All Joe Biden has to do is veto it, and the law stands. He says, "I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna let the Republicans do my job." Go ahead.
And there's no anger on the progressives. There's nothing but toxic positivity that comes from these progressives. And sorry, guys, RBN is here to ruin this bullshit that you guys have going on, where we just all pretend things great, pretend Democrats are great, pretend that Joe Biden is doing great. And this is why we call out Bernie Sanders and the NATO left, the boutique left, because they play the role of being PR agents for Joe Biden. So I took so much heat when I refused to vote for Joe Biden because I was well integrated within the Bernie movement. I was part of the campaign. A lot of people used to follow me. And then we had a hard divorce. I talk about this all the time. Where they got mad, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. This is what I see. I have been blinded too long. I don't give a fuck. So one thing they kept saying stuff like, "Oh, we gotta vote for Joe Biden because of climate." Climate is the reason why we gotta vote for Joe Biden. Even though he was on the debate stage, like, yeah, frack. We all for fracking and drilling. And like that lady said in that segment, she said Biden was clear that he's all for funding the police more. He don't support defunding the police. So I feel like I was being gaslighted to death when I had Black Lives Matter and other abolitionists I knew. I remember I co-founded Tender Mans in 2020. There was abolitionists that I knew that was like, come on, we gotta vote for Joe Biden. Fuck out of here. Like those, and they lost all credibility with me. Because on the debate stage, he's talking about how much he loved the police, and then you got abolitionists gaslighting people saying that we should vote for Joe Biden. So I said the obvious. We should not be doing that. And what makes it worse, these people haven't even adjusted their position. So instead of saying, oh shit, Joe Biden's way farther to the right than I thought he was, they now are active agents that do PR for Joe Biden. So what they often do, and we covered this before, they'll say, Joe Biden, he tried to pass Build Back Better and all this climate legislation. Shit didn't pass. The shit they were talking about didn't pass. Like, he had good intentions, and he wanted to do good stuff on the climate. For one, those things were half measures that didn't do anything. Secondly, they would actively ignore these stories about Biden drilling and the drill projects that he's done. And that's Pramila responding to the story. Now, you got these people who I've divorced from that are now calling them out. And this is the headline. Breaking the Biden administration. And I'm just introducing this because this is a good segue to this. The Biden administration just approved ConocoPhillips' Willow oil project, ignoring pleas from millions who called for the Alaska oil drilling plan to be halted due to the concerns about climate change. Ignoring the pleas from millions. So, what is the lesson that the boutique left is not going to learn, CJ? Millions of pleas. Millions of pleas. It's almost like it doesn't matter how nice you ask these people. They don't give a shit if they know you're going to continue to prop up their power.
And
so it doesn't matter if you... Go ahead, CJ.
No, I was just going to interject and say AOC, remember the State of the Union and how they came out? FDR, you hear that? He's about to be the most progressive president. And look in the last, couple of weeks how this guy's been doing. I mean, Sunrise Movement has to be rolling over in their grave unless they've completely sold out. That is ridiculous, man. They based their whole, if they had a good name, I didn't know that much about them at the time, based their whole good name on Joe Biden, and look at this shit here. Y'all look like clowns, Sunrise Movement. Go ahead.
Speaking of, since you brought them up, and I told you guys before, one of the first groups that I ever organized was with Casey Sunrise. And the same I say with DSA, I talked to a lot of people in Casey Sunrise that was about that life. Like, you talk to them, they wasn't for Democrats. They understood that capitalism, militarism was the problem. The problem is the organizations that is rooted based on social democrat ideology that is built on a top-down structure. And I quit Sunrise, and I don't often mention it. I do it now because I want people to know that I learned from my mistakes, and I want people to know that you can always improve as a leftist. But it's like, I don't even bring the shit up because Sunrise Movement is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing organization. Joe Biden and the Democrats could not be more clear where they stand on climate, but you have Sunrise Movement that not only did they endorse Joe Biden, the Democrats, they fundraised and organized door-knocking sessions for these people. And now they're coming out saying stuff like this, if you can't see the screen. President Biden officially approved the Willow Project instead of sticking to his own climate goals. His own climate goals, CJ. And listening to the millions of young people who carried the party the last 3 election cycles. Can I read that part again?
Wait. It doesn't end with them saying, and we ain't voting for your bitch ass next time. It doesn't say that in the tweet?
Not at all. Not at all. They are wedging their support against the Democrats. And come on, we're nice to you, Democrats. We helped you. Why are you doing this to us? Let me read this part again, and let me tell you guys why we're going so hard in the paint at Marianne Williamson and the boutique left. We are trying to spare you guys this shit. We are doing you guys a favor. We're trying to spare you the embarrassment I had when I used to associate with these fucks. Instead of sticking to his own climate goals that you guys helped manufacture, consent, and gaslight workers over, and listening to the millions of young people who carried the party for the last 3 generations. That's these election cycles. Speaking of generations, people like David Sirota in the boutique left, they want Gen Z. They want us to say later that we spent generations on this project, CJ. It's going to be 2040. You're going to have Sunrise Movement, millennials, and Gen Z that have been like, man, we've been fucking doing this shit for decades.
That's what they want you to do.
Stop that. You guys understand? If people don't understand why RBN covered the stuff we do and we oppositional to progressives, we're trying to prevent you from having that fucking sad story. And this is why this rings hollow, because you guys endorsed them. And everyone knows it. That's what everyone calling them out in the comments. This is our friend of the show, Misty. Gee, who could have possibly seen this coming? Dude had a 50-year career telling you exactly who he is, and you endorsed him anyway. Gross. I'm not going to read mine because you guys already hearing me speaking on it. But you see everyone racial. This is Delilah, friend of the show. You take the evidence in front of you and expect social media to take on the war machine. Silly. Help organize a general strike if you want to save our planet and democracy. But instead of doing that, they took youth power and used it as a door-knocking campaign for not just Biden, but for Raphael Warnock, for all the fucking Democrat shit libs. And I was like, dude, you guys are horrific. So I'm tired of seeing those kind of tweets. When I was in this circle, guys. All these people know who I am. They looked at me like I was crazy. If you want to know why I come up with why I have this much heat, because they would gaslighted me, and they went after me for telling them a simple fact. A simple fact. Now I'm gonna show you guys in my last part of this story I want to share the kind of quality analysis that you get from the boutique left, who we are oppositional towards. You know, the same way that the TYT left, Kyle Kalinske and them do nothing but Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson videos. We do those videos on everybody. MSNBC, we do videos on Fox News. We go after everybody, including them. And it's always weird when people think we should give them a pass. I view these people, the person I'm about to show you right now, the same as I view Mika Brzezinski. And we gotta rebuke those propaganda, because even though their audience has failed in the last few years, still way more than us. Still way more people listening to these idiots. This is from Emma Vigeland, and these are the people I used to debate in 2020. He's not where he needs to be. I get it. But climate change alone should be enough of a reason to vote for Biden over Trump. And that's the quality analysis you get from Majority Report and Emma Vigeland. So why am I saying this stuff? Because the thesis I had, and the reason why I got into this media space, and the reason why we started RBN, is because it's not only because the left independent media have failed, they are actively leading workers off a cliff. This is Emma gaslighting her audience, which is way bigger than ours, that Biden was the climate president. He's the climate president. You want to see what else? The other quality analysis that you get from the boutique left? The people who are the serious ones, the smart left, CJ. This is Emma. This
smart.
This is March 30th, 2020. Like after everything we knew about Cuomo before April, do what Emma says about him. There's no denying it. Andrew Cuomo has done a very good job, especially rhetorically, in this crisis. The way he's communicating is informative and politically savvy. He demolished Trump as the nominee if DNC leadership is willing to do the gutsy thing. So you want to know Emma's way to push the Democrats to the left for a radical position? She was like, Democrats, you don't have the guts to put Andrew Cuomo on top of the ticket.
That's ridiculous.
I'm the opposition. I'm the left. I'm the left. I dare you. I bet you won't run Andrew Cuomo.
And you have to emphasize that was after said news about the guy. I mean, this all of this crystallizes. This whole Biden he double crossed us again. Oh, back to the drawing board. Like this whole process, man. Like this is over.
I'm over
This
it.
is for we're not doing it again with Marianne Williamson. And I don't know if it's the effect of RBN and because we've been relentless, but she's not getting the freaking support that she does at all. She's not getting that support at all. And
I
even
know people are
remember
so
the leftist mafia?
go ahead.
Remember the leftist mafia with David Dole? I got a clip to even show you on that.
Oh,
They're like, oh no, they're laughing, like giggling about it. Yes. And like Olay, like, yeah, I ain't even touching that. She wouldn't even want to comment. She was like, I ain't even touching Marianne Williamson. She was like, everybody in the comment.
Hell yes.
She's like, I'm not even touching that. And then David Dole literally, they were playing hot potato. Like, go each other. And then David Dole finally clicked. He finally chimed in, man.
They wanted to see who was gonna be the first one to take the plunge. They didn't want to be the first one. I didn't see it, but I can't wait to see this because this is what we wanted to do. And people can kick and scream and be upset all they want. I wanted to, especially during the interview, and when I saw her answers when she interviewed with RBN, I was like, okay, I want to make it embarrassing for people to advocate for her. And that's why people are like, oh my God, will you guys stop embarrassing us? Because our points against her was so solid, so rock solid. And people saw the interview. They can try to spin it however they want, but people saw the horrible answers that she gave to us. So I wanted to make it a point where if you are advocating for Marianne Williamson, you are embarrassed. I don't even have to go after you individually. That you're a clown yourself. Like when you tweet about Marianne Williamson, you're a clown yourself because people heard what MMA and CJ had to say about her, and that was my strategy. So for you to tell me that they was hesitant to talk about her,
and also, they're very hesitant.
I noticed, guys. I noticed, and I know I may be biased here. No, I won't say maybe. I'm 100% biased. I'm not gonna lie, but
be honest. Yeah.
I did see a ton of socialists and a lot of bullshit artists that was like Marianne Williamson at first. Then we start going hard at them. I've seen that way less now. Well, then I may be bullshit. That may be just my bias. I may be seeing this shit, but I saw a lot of people go hard for her, and I'm like, what? And then we start making an argument. Now seeing that shit tamper off real quick, which is exactly what we want. It wasn't us. At the end of the day, and this is I see Serena. This is a good comment. At the end of the day, it was not us. It was not us who did her in. It was that her answers to my questions. There was nothing that I said, nothing that I could say afterwards that could have made her answer those questions as bad as she did. I asked her about working class resources and management of working class resources. Asked her about Bernie Sanders, and she said, "Oh, if you don't feel the way that I do, don't vote for me." Then I pressed on the two-state solution. Then she called me a mansplainer for that. So it wasn't us; it was her. So after that interview, hard no. Anyone who pushing her, especially after that, should be embarrassed. But then with
she made another gaffe recently. Another gaffe recently that we'll talk about when we get to that segment. We'll talk about that. Any other last words on this one? Yeah. Okay.
You can do some announcements. I have a story. I want to talk about the banking crisis.
We got to start. I mean, that's everywhere. We got to start with that.
And I know you probably have some stuff on it as well. But just as a preview to the segment, you have capitalists that they are blaming wokeism for the system crashing now. So my part of the story, I'm gonna talk about the capitalist cope and the bailout, quote unquote, debate. So that's my angle. And so you get announcements. I'll be right back, and we can start the segment.
All right, so let's do some announcements really quick. Things first, we're at 130 likes, about 300 or close to 300 people watching. So how about 275 likes? That's about 145 people. So if we can get 145 people to hit that like button, and I do it this way, like you're hitting the button, almost like on Family Feud or something. But if everybody hits that like button, we can get there. 275. The next thing is, here's our Substack. We just sent out the Discord link today. Okay, what happened? Okay, if you're not on, I think I'm back. If you're not on Discord, and if you are on Discord, and you are a newly Substack subscriber to RBN, we sent out the link to our Discord this morning. So make sure you check your emails, check your spam box. And that was sent out probably about 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So check that out. The other thing, we've crossed 32,000 subscribers. Thank you. On our way to 50,000 is the next goal. We also have $4 memberships. We'll just round it up $4. $3.99 RBN memberships. If you're interested, a couple of perks in the chat. And then here's website, revolutionaryblackout.com. And then I'll back, like the video. Let's get to 275. And all right, Nick, we can start with that SVB story out here in California, Silicon Valley. It's crazy, man.
So there's this. I'm gonna pull this article here because you already saw Ro Khanna and a bunch of these neoliberal swine making an argument that we should bail out these banks. They're not making the passionate argument and saying that we should take advantage of any legal loophole possible to get working class people bailed out and give people health care. What they want is for us to bail out the system. And I am shocked that people still buy the propaganda known as capitalism, because we see this system crash every 5 to 8 years. Now we have another bank disaster. This is the biggest bank crash since 2008. Since 2008. So you have capitalists that sees our system crash over and over again. And then after the system crash, the CEOs and executives get $1 million bonuses, which is happening again. And then they still think, damn, this system works fine. This system is rigged. And one thing I'm going to say before I start this conversation is, and I'm saying this as a learning lesson, because I used to say this shit as well. As Marxists, as communists, hell, even as socialists, you should not say that these bank bailouts are socialism for the rich. Don't say that. That is not what this is. I already see people on Twitter all over the place like, oh my God, there's socialism for the rich. Even social democrats and democratic socialists, they say this. No, this is capitalism, guys. This is capitalism. Capitalism is a rigged game. A rigged game where people who have capital always wins. There's endless amount of bailouts for the capitalists. Why? Because the capitalists control the means of production. What happens when you have a government that is less powerful than people that hold capital? You get bank deregulation. You get banks that have an endless amount of funds. And this story is insane. It is insane because what they're saying with these bailouts is essentially all banks are too big to fail, CJ. Banks cannot fail in this system. People who are capitalists cannot fail. But if you're a worker, on the other hand, let's say you get laid off. Let's say you get fired. And let's say you have a hard time getting back on your feet. Are you getting a bailout? You guys see how it's rigged for the capitalist class because that is how the system is designed. This is not socialism for the rich. Under our central planning model, we're not having systematic failure. That's what that implies. It implies that this is what capitalists do, this is what socialists do. No, socialists and Marxists, we build. We promote prosperity. We don't lead ineffective systems that crash like this because we have a bottom-up system, a system that probably with the working class, the everyday person. So what they were doing, this is capitalism, because under a system of capitalism, capital will never fail. You will. I think I lectured enough on that. CJ, any thoughts before I move on? Because this article explains some more why I'm saying this. Just interrupt. Feel free anytime.
Yeah, you can continue. Go ahead.
You have, and this is the funny part. The ruling class, they know how radical the people are in this country now. So they're doing everything they can to avoid calling this a bailout. The Biden administration is pushing back hard on the idea that this was a bailout. No losses associated with the resolution of Silicon Valley Bank will be borne by the taxpayer. And I want you guys to understand that like 95% of the deposits are literally multi-millionaires, billionaire companies, like giant deposits. These are not banks. SVB is not ordinary people banking there. It's tech startups. and the people that donate to Ro Khanna and Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party in California, which led to them deregulating these banks. But I'm going to show you guys later how the right wing is trying to take this problem of capitalism, where capitalism is stronger than the government, so government has no reign over it. In fact, not only do they not have reign over it, they actually continue to prop up their illegal behavior. Let's read this here. Now, this is how it works. When a bank fails, depositors are made whole by an FDIC insurance fund. And this insurance covers up to $250,000. Now, there were some companies that had up to $500 million in these bank accounts, CJ. They had all this money in here. And now that they're about to fail, they're saying, oh, we got to insure all this money that the capitalists own. So this whole $250,000 insurance fund is now mute. Anything is insurance now. So when you do that, you're essentially saying that banks are not allowed to fail. These private banks are not allowed to fail. Instead of having a public bank, you're supposed to have a private bank that take the risk. You had these risks associated with it. They just took that off. They get the benefit of being a public bank while privatizing the profits. And once again, socializing the losses. So I'm going to read here. Let's read this here. In the cases of SVB in the Signature Bank, FDIC insurance will now cover all depositors, regardless of size. The FDIC insurance fund, which is funded by a levy on bank deposits, stand at roughly $125 billion. It is worth noting this is nothing radical or new. Uninsured depositors have been paid out in full in every bank failure in living memory, with one exception, 2008. This is a rigged system that is meant for capitalists to always win. And I'm going to read the bottom line part. I got a few more things I want to read out here. The bottom line, if a bailout doesn't cost anything, is it really a bailout? So what they are saying here, and this is the key, and this is why we must resist this. They are putting this premise, and this is why they bailed out the bank in 2018. They said the banks are too big to fail. If we allow the banks to fail, our whole system will collapse. The argument that we make is that if the banks are too big to fail, they're too big to be private. We should do what China does. What China owns all the banks. China owns all the big public banks, which is why they don't have these massive problems, which is why housing is way cheaper in China, because they have a central planning model, which is for the people. Have the banks public, so they offer low interest loans, and they can continue to do what's best in the interest of the public instead of profit. They won't do white collar crime like you see here all the time. So what they say is the private banks and institutions are too big to fail, but we're not going to make them public. We'll continue to allow them to keep their profits. And if they fail, the CEOs and executives, who are the top talent, will get paid a massive bonus. Now think about this. The reason why they say CEOs and executives are paid the big bucks is because they're the big brains. They're the one who keep the business afloat. Oh, you are just a customer service worker. You are just a grunt. You may do a lot of work, but the executives, the CEO, they are the brains of operation.
The brains.
But meanwhile, these people keep crashing the industry every 5 to 8 years. Until you got 2008, now you have 2020. You got 2020. Now you got 2023. You got these people that are constantly failing, but they get paid bonuses. They continue to get bailouts and continue to get rewarded. That is what you call the rigged system. They win no matter what. It's heads, they win. Tails, you lose. So the most non-radical position that is not even accepted in this society is that if you're a private bank and you fail, you're not private no more. Isn't that rational? Like even someone who is a social democrat, even these small-time capitalists should believe in. Once these banks fail, this should be part of the public. Once any critical industry fail, it should be part of the public, because that's a sign that this industry should not be privatized.
And the thing is, and the thing is, of course, Ro Khanna had to chime in, and if you didn't go check out Sabby's coverage of this, it's pretty spot on. She has a lot of detail about what Ro Khanna. She even just recently, that's what my phone went off. She recently sent another thing saying, "Look at CJ." Ro Khanna applied your tweet because he had responded to my tweet. I had tweeted out before saying something about his stocks. This was a previous one saying something about Ro Khanna and his stocks, right? And his wife. Then he replied to it saying, no, my wife, blind trust, the standard thing he says. And then I said something like, if you think anybody's that shit, you're a moron. And I ratioed him. Like I ratioed the dude. So she's just saying how he said that in the he was lying. And she sent me a tweet about it.
They all lie. They all lie. And we'll get to that here soon. I exposed that. I'm glad that tweet went really well. It got a lot of views too. So there's a lot of people who didn't saw it like, fuck. He exposed these people because that's one thing. We got friends of RBN that send us these receipts.
Yeah, they send us stuff. Yeah.
And then they lie to their supporters. And you have progressive boutique left media that manufacture consent by not covering this stuff. Like, do you see these people cover Roe Conner corruption? Do they cover the fact that Worker Family Party is funded by Soros? I've never seen these people cover this stuff. This stuff that got hard receipts. You can look this shit up. It's public information, but they never cover it because they try to manufacture consent that these are lesser two evil people, that they're not corrupt. Now, I want to get to this part of the story. I know you probably got some stuff you want to share as well, because this is the funny part of it, because I wanted to explain why this system is rigged. And I literally just got to the surface level. Like I can do a whole 1 hour Marxist panel explaining how banks rigged the system to fail, how they all knew this was going to happen. This is why they were selling their stock. Like, selling their stock, yeah. It's a rigged system. And they crashed the system on purpose because every single collapse, who profits? These banks and these executives, the CEOs and these capitalists end up always walking away with more money than ever. You had a record amount of millionaires, billionaires. You had Elon Musk making record wealth. You had Jeff Bezos making record wealth in the middle of the economic recession. How does that happen? The system is fucking rigged to work on their behalf. So when they say stuff like, "Oh, this is a recession, the system is failing," well, the system of capitalism is working exactly as designed. It is designed to have these boom bust cycles. It's so ingrained they got a fucking name for it. Boom bust cycles. You get the illusion of the working class doing well, and then right when it busts, the capitalists take their shit back. You thought that car was yours. You thought that Porsche was yours.
Recycle, repo.
I'm sorry to tell you, our economy crashed. I'm gonna be taking that back. It's rigged. Once again, I'm talking too much. Let me show you guys how the right wing is coping with this. The right wing is coping with this, and they always do this stuff. They always got this misdirection that we must cover as part of education. And for MAGA communists who think they're fighting on behalf of the workers, they're not. They are trying to obfuscate what this is. This is a failure of capitalism. At the end of the day, this is because Democrats sided with Republicans to help deregulate the banks. I gotta find this receipt. Zoya sent me this list of all the Democrats that played a part of deregulating the banks that led to this crisis. You have neoliberals saying now, like, "Oh, do you know that bank that Donald Trump helped deregulate this?" And they always leave out the Democrats that helped them. They leave out the Democrats that set the precedent in the 90s and the early 2000s for that. Anyway, I'm ranting once again. Let me show you guys how the right wing is coping and trying to redirect from the failure of capitalism. Donald Trump Jr. SVB is what happens when you push a leftist woke ideology, and have that take precedent over common sense business practices. What the fuck is a Trump gonna tell anyone about common sense business practices? Trump was bailed out by his daddy countless times. To the theme of all these business people, all these millionaires and billionaires, they are the product of nepotism and endless generational wealth. These people are not smart. None of them are. They've got endless fucking resources, endless investment resources. So he said this won't be the last failure of this nature as long as people are rewarded for pushing this BS. So instead of explaining how our mode of production is a failure because it creates a private entity that is stronger than government, which leads to deregulation, which leads to the crashes and mismanagement of funds, you have the right wing that's pretending that these economic crashes that is happening because of gay people. You guys see the head fake? They got to bring up LGBT issues. Oh, they got a gay banker, so this is the part of the gay agenda. You guys see how the right wing play their role to get the workers to fight? They trying to get the workers, instead of being angry at the system and asking questions about the system, asking questions about banking deregulation, They are trying to get people to focus their hatred on their neighbor and their fellow worker, LGBTQ people. Now I have a few more. On my computer going a little slower. Here. I will play this clip. This short clip here. This is how capitalists are trying to cope with their system failing. Let's play this.
And then we see now coming out that they were one of the most woke banks in their
Oh my God.
The ESG type policy and investing. This could be a trend, and there are consequences for bad Democrat policy. And I think we need to keep an eye on all the banking sector right now.
So remember the conversation we had about wokeism a long time ago when we asked you guys a simple question that a lot of people don't ask: who does this ideology and who does this rhetoric serve? Who does this rhetoric serve? This is a misdirection. And now he said this is they got woke banks that fall on Democrat policy. The policy that led to this is deregulation that was bipartisan.
That's an oxymoron. That's a oxymoron.
Yeah, CJ, feel free. Interrupt anytime, CJ. But you see how both parties play this dance? They play this game to misdirect it away from the enemy. And trust me, the Democrat Party definitely have a role. And these corporations are engaging in this fake woke ideology in order to boost the public image. This is something that capitalists do. They're chameleons. They say, how can we maximize the market value? The best way to maximize the market value is to be inclusive. And this is what dumbass mad communists and a lot of anti-woke people don't understand. They think companies are being woke because they believe in the ideology. No, companies are woke because they're trying to maximize their profit and market share. It is not a good business move to exclude gay people. It's not. So if you're a right-wing capitalist, you got a ton of money, you're going to buy shit anyway because you fucking buy and you consume. It is not a good idea to be racially insensitive when you got a large emerging Latino population emerging. When you got blacks, they're still 13% of the population. So the business make an economic decision to not alienate people. Do you guys understand? I try to explain this to mad communists so many times. They still trying to pretend they don't understand this. They're not woke. They're doing it for profit. You guys get it, right? Now that we understand that, you got the right wing that pretending that this woke left ideology is leading to the bank crashing, even though this is straight up right-wing economic ideology that the Democrats and the Republicans agree on. Now, I might have to wait during your segment because I will find that receipt. I didn't save it, but someone sent me the receipt. All the Democrats that voted with this as well. The bank deregulation that all the Republicans supported. So I got a few more. One more here. Let me go back up.
A lot of this stuff I'm learning detail in this. What this speaks to the larger point, and it speaks to class solidarity. It speaks to class solidarity. You see how the Congress is bailing out this bank, but we can go homeless. You can literally starve. Your place flood. You see what happened with Hurricane Katrina. Like none of that's coming. But
your audio went out real quick. Check it. There you go.
Disconnected. Go ahead.
I'm gonna share this. I have a few more share on this because this actually it wraps around to a positive note, believe it or not. Because RBN won the public battle. I allude on this later because they overplaying it, CJ. They're overplaying the woke shit. And our debate with Jackson Hinkle, and when we had a conversation with these people, we was telling them that you don't have to promote anti-wokeism to reach the working class because the working class is not dumb. They're not buying this stupid bullshit. They know what you're trying to do here. I'm always spoiling the statement. I'll get to that part later. I'm gonna show them overplaying their hand, and not only just the right. Well, I guess the Wall Street Journal is like Republican, like aren't they? They like more neoliberal capitalists, lean more Republican, but they like both parties. But they're from Wall Street Journal, where they are deflecting again. Look at this. I'm gonna read it. I don't know how much you guys can see it. And they asked this question. Was there regulatory failure? Perhaps. CJ, perhaps. SVB was regulated like a bank, but looked more like a money market fund. But there's this. In a proxy statement, SVB notes that besides 91% of the board being independent, 45% are women. They also have one black, one LGBTQ, and 2 veterans. And they said, I'm not saying 12 white men would have avoided this mess, but the company may have been distracted by diversity demands. Dude, this is coming from the Wall Street Journal, guys. So they asked the question, was it because of deregulation? Perhaps, who knows? But hey, they got 45% women, they got a black person, gay person. I don't know, man. Maybe because of that. Not the system. And not the system. Even they are muddying the waters with this nonsense.
It's anything but capitalism. It's capitalists are going to come out and say, and what they're going to have, and what's funny to me, and why corporate media to me is you can see the bipartisanship when it comes to financial shit in corporate media more clearly. For example, MSNBC, they're covering it. They bring on a fucking guy. I can't remember, one of the Kramer guys. He's another financial guy, but he's clearly a fucking Republican. Clearly a Republican. They don't say anything like that to their audience. Oh, here's an expert, finances, and they just talk to him as if he's just a regular person. I'm like, I just saw this guy on Fox News, and he's clearly a Republican. But they don't mention that. So you can clearly see bipartisanship because the capitalist cult, everybody that's coming out and giving reasons to trying to capitalism and not brain capitalism is on both sides. It's red and blue that's doing this.
Well said. And this is a great tweet I saw. This is a response to Donald Trump Jr. blaming capitalism failing once again on wokeism. This guy said, right-wingers rushing to come up with an explanation for regulatory failure that is consistent with their dumb ideology. Oh, never mind. The bank ran out of money because they're too gay. So this is them trying to inject a culture war and to deflect from their system failing once again because they have no actual critique of what the Democrats did. Because if they critique what the Democrats did in California and deregulation here, that will expose their ideology because they agree with that. Now, I'm going to show you this is the positive / fun part of the story. And then I'll pass it to you if you have anything you want to share on this story as well. Come on, USA Today. Here it is. So I remember when we did our segment on wokeism. I'm not saying that we influenced this at all because we're still a relatively small channel. But man, did we win the narrative battle? Because you had Jackson that came on here who said that American workers will relate to you promoting anti-wokeism, wherever the fuck that is. Meanwhile, me and CJ was like, bro, we are talking to people in the streets. I'm looking at my family, my friends, the people I know. No one is up in arms over this wokeism mob. And as I said and been saying, it seems like some overly online shit. It seems like shit that only people who are online gives a fuck about. The people on the right that gives a fuck about this, the people that's on the left, like, oh, we got to call out wokeism, whatever. This is not something that impacts people's fucking lives. No one actually gives a shit. And actually, most people actually know where woke comes from. Now, look at this poll. And now, polls are not be all end all. I always got to say that because they're not end all be all. But I found this interesting.
Well, let me say this part.
Go ahead.
If a poll is indicating something that we like, I trust that a lot more because these are corrupt pollsters that is trying to come out with a particular.
Check your audio again, CJ. I know CJ. I think you might have some internet issues today. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, I'm having internet, so if the internet goes out, the mic shuts off automatically. But go ahead with the article.
Yeah, I'll pass to you. I'm gonna read this article. I will release the first part of the article because I'll keep this part short. Look at this. When we did our segment on wokeism, I told you guys they overplaying it. A GOP war on woke. Most Americans view the term as positive. U.S. Today, ICE poll finds, and I said it months ago, like, I don't know if we're going to win this battle of trying to educate people that they are misusing this in order to stoke culture war and class disunity. But I'm glad most people realize what the hell they're doing because you got morons like Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and the worst of the worst that's now using this. You remember the guy who's like Mr. Potato Head, the woke sage. Like you got we had the best.
Ooh, the My Pillow guy. Who was that? The My Pillow guy?
Yeah, one of those people. He was one of the Congress people. He was like, the wokes are kind of get you. They want to go after Mr. Potato Head. I got to find that clip.
Oh yeah, we watched that. Yeah, I remember watching that with that older guy. Yeah, I remember.
So here's the subheadline: by 56 to 39%, Americans say woke means being aware of social injustice, not being overly politically correct.
It's not working. Woke
Not
has
working.
meant something for hundreds of years. Literally, well, let me say Marcus Garvey. So
Let's say generation.
It just crossed 100 because we're talking like 1920 something. So it just crossed 100 years, and then you're gonna all of a sudden change it because you want to stoke fear into your white population. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a certain segment of people that do buy into this. Jackson Hinkle is one of them that buys it and tries to push it. But the vast majority of people who live through life like the last 50 years, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't born yesterday. I know woke doesn't mean that, even though you're used that way.
And it's obvious what they're trying to do. And the reason why we saw it as destructive is because they'll call you woke. They will call you pushing critical race theory and shit like that. When you literally explain like stuff like civil asset forfeiture, generational wealth, redlining, things that expose your state. So a lot of these people are patriotic or whatever, right? They love the flag. They're flag humpers. They believe that the American state is, even though they are criticism, we still stand for the greater good. So when you have black people, when you have indigenous people, when you have Latinos that said, no, your country is garbage, it's always been garbage, and we're fighting to improve it because you grew up in a garbage state that is literally built on blood. So they can't have little Timmy growing up to be a radical. So they say, oh my God, they're pushing woke ideology in the schools. They're pushing woke agenda that want to make you hate America. This is knowledge. This is us educating each other so we can know how to face our oppressors, right? Being woke, and this is something I remember clearly growing up, was being aware of your surroundings and knowing who your true enemy is. So you would call niggas like they're not woke if you see niggas like gangbanging, like killing each other on the streets. Meanwhile, the nigga who calling out the banker, the person who calling out the police, they're like, oh, he's woke. He's woke. He gone past the streets. He gone past the nonsense. He actually see that we not each other's enemy. It's actually the ruling class that is dividing us. That what being woke was, and how is that negative? So white America saw that, and they saw black people being quote unquote woke, where we were calling out our oppressors, and they're like, oh shit, that's bad. Let's turn that to a slur. Now you got people who use it in a completely incoherent way, where it's like, and I remember, and I don't pay attention to celebrities at all. But I remember after the Rihanna Super Bowl halftime show, you had some Republican, I don't remember the personality, but he was like, man, I'm so glad that woke performance is over. Everyone was like, what? Rihanna's a fucking corporate capitalist. What? It's almost like you guys just substituting that for anti-blackness. Oh my God, there's a black person over there is woke. So as someone who's black, well, I know this. Because you guys are calling stuff that's woke, that is literally not. Like Rihanna is a corporate capitalist. How the only thing that will make you call that woke is if you just saying, oh, I don't like black culture, seeing black people around. This is a white defensive mechanism, which it is. Which is why RBN.
That's what I see.
Go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
I see. Woke is more saying where you can substitute by saying stop being a leftist. Stop wanting to stop being a humanitarian. Like that's what they mean by woke. But we have to say the other side too. There's people who should be woke based on what you say you believe in, but you're not living up to it. Progressive Democrats, AOC, the lane is only there for this. The lane of changing what woke means is only there because of AOC, Bernie Sanders, and all of progressive Democrats who aren't delivering on it. Because imagine, how are you going to call Bernie Sanders woke if he delivered on $15 minimum wage, Medicare for all, and climate change? It's not going to land. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like calling us woke, like trying to call RBN woke. Like that's not going to land on us. Oh, Margaret Kimberly, you're so woke. Like that's not going to land. That's not going to land on her, but it'll land on Ilhan Omar, who's sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Exactly. It'll land on her. Exactly.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction to make. So I have another story, but I don't know. I'll pass you, CJ. You can do the same if you want. I don't know how your internet is doing. I can carry haywire. Yeah, I can carry.
I do gotta. I think the video replay. But I will let you do one more segment, and then I'll do my segment because I am making sure it does work. But let me do it. Set this up. This next for you.
Sorry, what was that? You cut out a little bit.
Oh, you can do the next segment, and then I'll go after you.
Okay.
I'll do
This should be a quicker one. This should be a quicker one because I found this earlier. Maybe I should pull the article. I just got the screenshot. I'll just do it off the screenshot. That's fine. All right. So the left in the United States and Europe lost its goddamn mind, and RBN and many of our allies and friends who've been calling out the Ukraine proxy war and NATO, I feel like we've been gaslighted to death by Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, the NATO left, the people who now try to pretend that NATO is some sort of left structure. And I'm not like straw manning. I swear to God. You have Marianne Williamson, who is the quote unquote, and I cannot emphasize that quote part enough, the left candidate to Biden, who agrees that we should continue to fund the NATO proxy war in Ukraine. That's how bad it is. The massive gaslight. So there are people who've been part of the old school left, even people who I disagree with on important topics, like Noam Chomsky. You had Noam Chomsky who've been following NATO, who have left criticism of NATO for decades, who was like, nah, son, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. You had Norman Finkelstein. Once again, you got left academia. You got Chris Hedges, someone who's been covering this stuff for decades. Old school leftists that like, bruh, what are y'all talking about on the NATO left? Now you got the new generation that apparently supposed to spawn from people like Chris Hedges, Noam Chomsky, Norman Finkelstein, Michael Prince, and all these people. You have David Pakman, David Doe, Kyle Kalinske, who have no criticism of NATO now. That's where that's the fallout, because you can even say, and there's a lot of communist criticism of Chomsky, like you guys don't know. Like Chomsky, there's a lot of criticism of him being anti-communist, of him spreading Western agenda, whether you guys know it or not. But even with those criticisms of the social democrat Noam Chomsky, he still was on point on critical Western empire and capitalist power structures, right? He wasn't perfect, whether you guys believe it or not. He was not perfect, but he still was decent. Now, you got the left, where everyone fucking lost their mind among the boutique left, among the educated establishment left. They all lost their mind. You have to the point where Marianne Williamson quoted the Green Party of Europe as a reason why she supports the Ukraine war. Now, let me show you guys why that's ridiculous, because as I said, despite the gaslighting, RBN is here to let you know you're not the only one who remember when the left used to oppose NATO. Now they're wiping all left criticism of NATO from the books. People like Kyle Kalinske and others pretend they don't even understand our point of view. The boss in this audience they happily call themselves NATO leftists now, which is great. See, I don't know if you've seen this. You got Washington people that are like, yeah, NATO left rise. Who been saying NATO left, guys? No, RBN is the only people that have been saying NATO left, and now we got people saying NATO left rise. They hear what we're saying. They hear us, CJ.
They can hear us. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's just funny. But anyway, let me read this receipt. The Green Party abandons opposition to NATO. Now, this is the members of the Green Party of England and Wales. And I remember we did our third-party summit. We had some Green Party people on, and we was imploring, especially the Jill Stein wing. Like, Jill Stein is calling out the Ukraine proxy war, right? I know people who are a part of the Green Party, like Delilah, and a lot of other base comrades who are calling this out. The Green Party in the United States was ruined by the Hollywood Hawkins wing. You have Hollywood Hawkins, who's still a Russiagator who support the Ukraine war. So there's this big fracture where I still haven't even seen the Green Party acknowledge it. Like, there's a giant difference between these two wings of the party here. But you have the Joe Stein wing. So we're asking the Joe Stein wing of the party, like, why are you still calling yourself the Green Party? I remember we specifically had this question. I don't know if you remember this, CJ. And we asked them, why do you still call yourself the Green Party?
I do, yeah.
You need to change that name because that name is fucking stupid. And they was like, well, actually, I think there's a good reason why we still call ourselves the Green Party, because we want to maintain our connections with the Green Party of Europe. We want to have international solidarity. And at the time, I was like, okay, all right, I see the logic there, whatever. Now it's like, you guys need to change your fucking name. You guys shouldn't want any connection with the Green Party of Europe. Period. Period. Now here's the headline: Green Party abandons opposition to NATO. Did the Green Party England and Wales? And now this is how you know they are full of shit. This is how you know the NATO left is full of shit, because they used to get this issue right until the establishment said no longer. So you guys want me to believe that these people are good faith? The people that used to be able to explain why NATO is an anti-left, anti-imperial, imperial empire? I'll just read the statement. Prior to the vote, the party's policy stated that NATO is not a sustainable mechanism for maintaining peace in the world. It said that the Green Party would take the UK out of NATO. CJ, they used to run on NATO exit. That's what they was running on in the UK. They went from that to now they are NATO bootlickers to the point where they take that shit off their platform. But they want to gaslight us into thinking that we changed, CJ?
Why do you think it's specific to the NATO in Germany and NATO and you? Like, what's happening out there? I thought they would be more to the left of us, but it seems like they're to the right. What the fuck? What's going on?
I told you guys, when I was in Seattle with Worker Strike Back, we had a workshop. There was Mike Foster who was there. He flew in from the UK, and he's part of the Enough is Enough campaign, who's leading a movement to lead people out of the Labour Party to create an independent party, and they're trying to draft Jeremy Corbyn as the leader. And Jeremy Corbyn resisting this, but that's their movement. They want to get as many people out of the Labour Party Tory struggle as possible, right? So that's why he endorsed Worker Strike Back, because their thing is they don't really care about winning election. They just want a Labour militancy that's against Labour and the Tories, right? So he came over here and we asked him. We was like, how does it? One of the questions, it wasn't me. We was asking him questions. One of the people at Worker Strike Back was like, what is the feelings around the Ukraine war in the UK? Like on the ground, like on labor struggles and these actions. And he said, he's like, bro, there are activists and we are not for this Ukraine shit. But he said, bro, the UK public is different there. Like, it's different there than here. Like, they will literally crucify you, like fucking ruin your life if you speak out against that. Speak out against Ukraine. That's why, like, all activist organizations in the UK and Germany, like, they even scared to mention it because that will immediately get you destroyed there. It's like completely different authoritarian, like, shutdown. Like, they will censor your social media. They'll go after your bank accounts. People will lose their jobs. It's like, it's not like, he's like, there's no organization in place to resist it. Like, you had to need like Ukraine resistance funds over there. You lose your job. Like, it's serious authoritarian shit is going on in the UK. That's why you got the Green Party in England, who they should be fighters and fight for this, but they say, fuck that shit. We playing the ball on this. They crumbling to the pressure. To answer, there's a long-winded answer to your question, CJ, of like, what the fuck is going on here? Mike Foster was playing like, dude, it's different there. We're against that shit, but there's no room there. There's like the people who protest there is like complete shot for the media, complete shot for the establishment. Labor will disvalue, which is one of the reasons why they want to lead the Labor Party, because there's no resistance on Ukraine. It's rough over there. I think you need to talk to someone in the UK, but he's playing in really stark terms. He's like, bro, it's bleak. It's bleak. But anyway, this is part of the NATO left selling us out on this issue. And part of Europe. And this is why it's even more absurd when you have Marianne Williamson quote the Green Party, because the Green Party of Germany, and I don't know like the long history of the Green Party of England, but the Green Party of Germany have been trashed for quite some time. Quite like there wasn't even an illusion of them being good for years. Like they pretty much bootlicker the U.S. war machine. They support all U.S. imperialism. They use woke imperialism to justify it. They say, oh, we got to occupy, we got to invade, we got to sanction this country because they anti-LGBT. That's like the shit like the Green Party of Germany would do. They say they are for escalating tension against Russia because of Russia anti-LGBT sentiment in that country, ignoring the fact that anti-LGBT country sentiment in this country is worse than Russia. It's just as bad, but they want to impose sanctions. That's what they advocate for. But anyway, CJ, I'll pass it to you. I know you got something to share. That's my part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, in the segment there, I think my internet is good. I might turn it off just to make. I wanted to play this quick clip. This is a segment before I get to my the more serious story, but this one ran, and everybody kind of already seen him. Maybe I don't know if you've seen it. I just saw it like yesterday, but Russell Brand kind of goes in at this, DNC. It's a Lincoln Project. This is the guy who started the Lincoln Project. So we'll cover that next real quickly, but
yeah,
I'm gonna watch it.
See, I'm gonna watch the chat, but I think it's still skipping a little bit. But
Okay.
I'm gonna let you continue. I'm gonna watch the chat. I'll let you know. But
yeah, if it's still if there's real spotty, then just let me know.
Yeah, I have one more segment. We had to end this live early, no big deal. But I'll let you continue the segment. I'll let you know. People still have some issues though. But go ahead, CJ. They're still saying you're breaking up.
So let's announce. Okay, so we're at 275 people who hit that like button. 404 people watching to 400 likes. 125 people hit that like button. Also, our stack is open. Make sure you join or get on the list so you can get notifications when we go live and when we have clips and upcoming ads. That is our Substack. The other thing, sure you check the website. We've had an uptick in the
Yeah, CJ, I'm gonna jump in because if you don't mind, the internet's still pretty bad. Like the audio is still cutting out pretty bad. So if you don't mind, I have another segment we can do, and we can just keep this 90 minutes. And I don't know if there's like a fix or something, but I have a segment I can do because unfortunately, hopefully we can get that fixed. Yeah, because a lot of them, the audio is really bad popping in and out.
I'm gonna restart.
Yeah, go. Yeah, I'm gonna do the segment. I'll do the segment and then restart. Hopefully that works. All right, let me pull this up here. So this segment I'm gonna do right now is China is on a peace tour, and the giant development that happened was China and Beijing leading the way to restore and normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, China is in a very powerful position in the Middle East to do this because China is the largest importer of oil in the world, and they had great relations with Saudi Arabia and Iran for quite some time. And a show of strength, while Joe Biden in the United States is bombing the Nord Stream pipeline as they're sending weapons to Ukraine, as they send weapons to Taiwan, as they continue to fund the violent apartheid regime in Israel, which is losing the patience of a lot of their Middle Eastern neighbors. Like you have the United Arab Emirates that is halting weapons sales and development to Israel because their far-right fascist regime has gone so far in their attacks on Palestinian villages and their ethnic cleansing. So now you have the Israel, United States that is becoming isolated in the Middle East and on the global stage to the point where you have the UN, you have all these states that come together who vote to condemn Israel apartheid. You have the world coming together to vote against the Cuban embargo. This was led by AMLO in Mexico. And the only people that voted against that was the Ukrainian Zelensky regime in Israel and Bolsonaro's Brazil. So you have the United States that is losing massive amount of influence. And I'm actually going to combine this segment with another video I didn't get a chance to do because there's a propaganda video I want to show you guys after this. Because I want to show you guys this is exactly why they are doing here it is. Oh, I'm glad I can show you guys this clip. Actually, I'm gonna do this part first. So I was gonna cover. Now you have China that's trying to mediate peace, and now they want to have a meeting with Zelensky. They about to have a surprise meeting with Putin next week, and now they want to meet with Zelensky. So you have China that's focusing on establishing peace with Iran and Saudi Arabia, which is a giant boon, and the United States have been embarrassed because they've been sidelined, and China and Saudi Arabia have been very open in communication with Washington, D.C. that these talks are happening, but they are still on the sideline because the United States actually benefit from normalized relations economically. And this is mostly what China's about. China got along great with Saudi Arabia because it's like, man, we're not going to be like the United States where we are like hypocrites and we wag our finger at you for human rights violations, and we continue to beat the shit out of black people and imprison the shit out of the world's population, 25% of it. So China's like, man, I just want to make money. You guys want to make money? The best thing you can do is make money if we all get along here. And that's essentially what happened here. Now, China expanding their influence in Africa, greatly in the Middle East. You have Brazil that want to expand their partnership with Africa, and that's obviously the most significant economy in Latin America. You have China making big gains. So the West is panicking. So I'm going to show you guys this segment, and what I explained to you guys sums up exactly why we have so much anti-China hysteria. So since CJ is having tech errors, I'm going to extend this segment and play this. I saw this a few days ago, and this is this aggressive, ridiculous anti-China propaganda. And I'm gonna explain why. Let's watch this.
Director Wray laid out in the most clear terms yet how he views, first of all, the danger of TikTok, owned by a Chinese company, and clearly it's not private, it's a Chinese company, and the government's ability to gather information on Americans.
So they want us to be afraid. Oh my God, TikTok is gathering information on Americans. TikTok is spying on Americans. You mean what Google does all the time? You mean what our government does all the time? Think about all the spying programs that haven't been unveiled. But they want us to have anti-China hate. They want to be afraid of what China we're going to look up. In fact, like what could happen even if China did see something of mine? I am in a bigger threat with my government seeing what I have, because our government would send a fascist, violent police force to kill you. Are you afraid of China seeing your dick pics? That's the worst that could happen. That is me. Meanwhile, here, they can use that to trace your location, frame you for a crime, and kill you. That's what they do to activists all the time, which is why I implore people who go to actions and protest, don't bring your cell phone, because they will use your location as a way to frame you for a crime that they can't solve in the area. Let's continue this clip.
Clearly, it's not private, it's a Chinese company, and the government's ability to gather information on Americans.
Well, that's right, Andrea. I mean, we know the Chinese government well enough to say with confidence it's an adversary, and collecting information about America and Americans and people all over the world is one of its key goals. One of the problems with TikTok, as you know, through its corporate structure, can be controlled by the Chinese government, and about 100.
Oh my God, TikTok and its corporate structure can be controlled by the Chinese government. What does that sound like? I don't know. It seems like we have something called the Twitter files recently. They expose how Twitter is essentially controlled by government entities that make demands of them. You have Mark Zuckerberg that essentially admit that, they make all the rules because you have politicians that pressure them. You have politicians that call in Zuckerberg and Facebook executives, and then they yell at them because they don't censor enough people. But tell me more about how China has a grip over TikTok, which may or may not be true, but the argument that we always make is that no one does it worse than the United States. CJ, feel free to interrupt if you're there. I know you may be testing your internet.
Yeah, I'm testing it. I sound right now, but it sounds because I reset everything. So I think it's, but I'm still testing it, so I'm here. So go ahead.
All right, cool. Once again, I'm just having fun doing the presentation. Let's continue watching this video. I just threw this video in because this is a video I didn't get a chance to watch. I think it's good before I continue the China story, because China is on a world peace tour, making the United States extremely embarrassed. So the United States and Biden is embarrassed to the point where I'm like watching the corporate media and what they're covering. They are avoiding mentioning this at all costs. So they do segments like this instead. And this is on MSNBC. This is not even Tucker Carlson shit. This is not Lauren Ingram shit. This is not the 5 shit. This is not what you expect that will come from Fox News. This is MSNBC liberal brunch shit. This is common warmongering. This casual xenophobia. Let's continue.
As you know, through its corporate structure, can be controlled by the Chinese government. And about 135 or so million Americans have that app on their phone. Social media, TikTok, and privacy are incompatible, right? If you are on social media, then you have ceded a lot of your privacy. You've given your data to whatever.
Well, yeah, but we also ceded our privacy just by being U.S. citizens, because you guys decided that you have the right to spy on us without our permission, without a congressional authority. So what he's saying is, a little true, but it's also because the United States decided they can spy on us. So whether you're on social media or not, they're going to spy on you. But they want you to be afraid of China, though.
A company has created the app. And so the concern, obviously, is that 135 million Americans have given some control over their private information ultimately to the Chinese government. Now, what's the Chinese government going to do with it? How do we tailor a thoughtful resolution? I mean, I hear a lot of concerns, but I don't hear a lot of thoughtful approaches to how we address it. And I'm confident that simply banning the use of TikTok from more than 100 million Americans is really not going to solve the problem.
Well, and one of the things that was raised at a Senate briefing yesterday on all of this, Admiral Stavridis, was, we are all concerned about our privacy and intrusion when it comes from our own government, but we don't seem to, at least 100 million people, many of them under 30, but not all. And certainly it's a big advertising medium now for many, many corporations, and don't seem to be concerned about TikTok. And more broadly,
she just said, I don't know why, CJ. I don't know why these Americans, they're so worried about their own government spying on them. Why are you guys not worried about China? Be afraid about China. Why are you guys worried about that? Come on, maybe just do a little bit of spying. Surely we won't use it against you. You guys see this cope? They come from white American Western chauvinists. Oh, come on, man. I know we spying us. Why are you guys so worried about that? Worry about them. Look, they're looking at you too. I want to see that part again. That part is classic.
And Midwestern Marxists said, maybe I'll pull up the video. He said that that TikTok, the Chinese that used to manage like the content, the reason why he keeps getting banned is because was pressured so much by the United States that they now farm that out to a company in Texas who now moderates. Because a lot of people are like, what the hell's going on with TikTok lately? He's been getting constantly banned. So you see what happened. They even got the TikTok. They even got the TikTok, man.
They're trying to paint it as only Chinese control. That is the same with the lab leak theory, where right wingers are like, oh my God, it's the Chinese labs called COVID, and they completely ignore the fact that those are Chinese and US-led projects. So they use the lab leak as a reason to escalate tensions and blame China, even though the US had their hands in it as well. They're the same with TikTok, where they're like, oh my God, look at China and TikTok. No, the United States government got their hands in that as well. That's a great point. Let's continue this. I'll just play that part again. This classic, I'm allow this guy to speak a little bit longer, and I'm gonna let the anti-China propaganda continue. Look at this part. This part is so funny.
Well, and one of the things that was raised at a Senate briefing yesterday on all of this, Admiral Stavridis, was, we are all concerned about our privacy and intrusion when it comes from our own government, but we don't seem to, at least 100 million people.
Come on, why are you guys why are you worried about our government, what we're doing? Why are you worried about holding our government accountable? Come on, what about them? What about them? You see this?
Yeah, everybody knows that she's married to Greenspan too. Just keep that in mind. A direct guard plant as a freaking journalist, supposedly, on TV.
So let's hear more of this, because this actually, I watched this segment, I'm like, damn, man, did they keep cranking it up? like they just getting started.
Many of them under 30, but not all. And certainly it's a big advertising medium now for many, many corporations, and don't seem to be concerned about TikTok. And more broadly, let's talk about Chinese advances, military advances, technological advances, artificial intelligence. This is why Avril Haines said that China is the biggest threat, because it's a global threat on so many platforms. So we have a hot war.
What does that mean for
Europe.
you? But I'm asking that question. What does that mean for you? She just said, oh, China is a threat. Oh my God, they're doing a good thing with the military. They're doing a good thing with their economy. Oh my God, they're building things, and they're a threat. How are those things related? How does that make them a threat to our life? Because they're prospering. It doesn't. This is the capitalists straight up admitting, oh my God, there's an alternative system. There's our enemies that is actually leading through diplomacy instead of by bombing, by threats. And we cannot have another alternative to our system be shown. That's why they're a threat. It's amazing. That's why I watch these segments, because to me, it's amazing that they say the quiet part out loud. People's brains are just not decolonized enough to see what they're saying. They're not talking to us. This is a sit-down brunch meeting with these 4 people that they air into the public for whatever fuck reason. I still don't know what they doing, CJ. Because to me, it says everything about their mindset. Let's continue.
Really, it's China that long-term is what she cited as the biggest threat to our country.
That's absolutely right. I know Avril extremely well, and she's absolutely correct. And I want to agree with Chuck in saying a moment ago that, you know, TikTok is kind of the tip of the TikTok, if you will. It's the tip of all of this. There's an enormous footprint going on here. Director Ray is very well aware of Chinese, very capable espionage going on constantly directed against the highest end systems. We're in a foot race with China for artificial intelligence, quantum computing. China is expanding their nuclear arsenal significantly.
Maybe if our public education system didn't suck and literally put people in poverty, we may have an education system where we can compete with them on those things, but we don't, because capitalism does not promote innovation and talent. It promotes mediocrity.
That costs money.
So you understand
that
why
costs money.
Yep. You understand why we get blown the fuck away by countries like Singapore and China? Like the central planning model is completely different. We're spending money on bombs. Instead, what I said, we need to catch up to China on tech and AI. And I knew this because I went to college and for computer science. They talk about all the time. We're falling behind the tech by China. That was like 10 years ago, CJ. They say, oh my God, this is a good problem, bro. They said, CJ, the whole thing been built my entire life been hearing this shit. We fall behind.
But they go like, but this is what capitalists do. They go, we're falling behind, and it costs this much to catch up, but we ain't paying for that shit. Who's paying for that? That's what. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to pay to get it up. This is, for example, let me give you an example. For example, like our cell phone infrastructure in the United States, it's owned by corporations and sell in different cities. 5 different companies cell towers all over their city, right? This is the problem with capitalism. Now, if it was an infrastructure owned by the people, one tower, all of our phones work on it instead of having 5 different companies. Anyway, that was just a point because I'm from the cell phone industry, and it sticked out to me as a point to your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd have just a few more receipts and I'll pass it to you now that you're back. Now, the reason I play that, because I'll just add that part to the segment while we was waiting for you, because I think it fits well, because I want to show you guys just one example, and I'm going to do more of these anti-China propaganda segments. I may have Danny on here soon, and we're going to break down a few of them, because it's becoming more desperate and more ridiculous. I cut it off, Derek. I think you guys get the vibe. But that's not it. That video was 9 minutes of just be afraid of China. Be afraid of China. Oh my God, China. It's almost they do at least one of these segments every hour. Every hour. They like Alaveshi, he like leads into it the most. But I even seeing Joanne Reed dabble into that. And she don't even usually do foreign policy. Like Joanne Reed usually focus on culture.
She's a culture warrior.
They usually don't let Chris Hayes do those segments because they don't want him to seem like an imperialist. They want like save it. But even he dabbles a little bit now. They're so desperate, and this is why. Because we covered China brokering peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which is one of the biggest geopolitical stories in years. Cannot emphasize that enough. Now you have G to speak with Zelensky, meet next week with Putin. After Iran and Saudi Arabia, now Ukraine and Russia. That will literally be an instant new world order once started on peace, which will be quite a symbol. Now, the question to the deeply unserious Western establishment that gave a Nobel Peace Prize to Barack Drone King Obama. You have G that literally negotiated peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, who is bringing the entire global South together on BRICS, and now trying to escalate and promote peace in Ukraine. I don't take the Nobel Peace Prize seriously because people like G don't get it. Because Xi Jinping should definitely get the Nobel Peace Prize because he's doing something the United States is not doing. You want to know what else China is doing? They making the United States look like fucking fools. So they showing these segments on MSNBC and on the BBC, on Fox News and CNN, all rank ridiculous anti-China propaganda. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, they hearing what China is saying. They hearing what Russia is saying, and they say, okay, we hear your argument, we hear Putin's argument, we hear your argument, we hear Anthony Blinken's argument, now we hear Xi Jinping's argument. Their argument made more sense than yours. That's a story I showed before where Africans, there's a poll that showed that Africans, when shown Chinese propaganda, American propaganda, and then neutral propaganda, most of them believe the Chinese side because we have no land to stand on. That's why we do these ridiculous segments. So as U.S. is pretending that China about to take the side of Russia and Ukraine, as they pretending that they're doing genocides of the Uyghur population, as they pretend that China about to invade Taiwan, as they are completely making up this fictional narrative that does not exist, China promoting peace. China's building people, and they're calling out the United States for the war crimes. What just happened? The United States voted against ending the occupation of Syria. So, as they condemn Vladimir Putin and Russia for their invasion of Ukraine, they're literally occupying Syria, stealing their oil, and supporting Israel in their bombing campaign of Syria. So here's China here. I think this is.
美国非法介入叙利亚
I'll read it. So it's in not in English. Here it is. I'll read it here. They said the United States illegally intervened in military. Oh, I got muted first. They illegally intervened in military operations related to the Syrian crisis, killing a large number of innocent civilians and leading to serious humanitarian disaster. The United Nations Independent, God damn, that one was fast. The United States Independent International Commission of Inquiry, I think because she used the abbreviation. I think that's probably why it went fast. On the Syrian Arab Republic, has repeatedly criticized the U.S. Army for launching indiscriminate attacks. So what she bringing up here is that, everyone else is saying, hey, U.S. Israel, what the fuck? That's what she's saying. Everyone else is like, hey, what the fuck? And now China is also saying, hey, U.S., what the fuck? Now, all right, let's get to the next part. See, some of them last long and some of them go by fast. I don't get it. Suspected of committing war crimes. The Syria crisis is about to enter its 13th year. At least 350,000 people have lost their lives. And 14 million people are in urgent need of humanitarian relief, which a lot of them are not getting because of Syrian sanctions, which Democrats voted against lifting, by the way. Democrats and Republicans. The United States still believes that it's too early to withdraw its troops and has no intention to end its illegal military presence in Syria. We appeal that the United States should earnestly respect the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of other countries. CJ, you see the flex? So as the United States is doing this obvious bullshit tour, where they're like, oh my God, we stand for sovereignty. We stand for peace. Oh my God, Russia is evil. China is doing PR campaigns all around the world. Like, the United States needs to respect people's sovereignty. They need to stop invading countries. They need to respect the sovereignty of Syria. So they're directly undermining the United States. And while the NATO left, and while the Americans are brainwashed and they can't see this stuff, the rest of the world is. The rest of the world sees China just straight flexing on the United States with these press conferences. I'll continue. I think it's just a little bit more.
I mean, it's a great plan to just simply go around the world and treat people like humans and tell them the truth about history. That's literally what you just said. You go around and I think you can. It reflects what she's kind of speaking to is reflected in what Africans have been doing, siding, not just chiming in on Ukraine war. So I mean, it's a great plan. I mean, this is inevitable. It's inevitable that this central planning model is going to be more appealing than capitalism that doesn't care about any sort of central planning model. Look at our road and bridges. Look at our infrastructure. Doesn't care whatsoever. Look at all of the wars, all of the military bases we have around the world. The threat is that there's another system that makes sense, Nick. Go ahead.
No, what's that? What's that? That's the press conference. And if you look this story up, I had to go on Press TV, which is like banned in the UK, right? Hopefully I'm getting that right. But Press TV is considered like Russian propagandist, right? All this kind of shit. And you gotta find, like, if you Google China, Syria, this shit is not covered anywhere in U.S. media, and not covered in NATO left media. Why? Question I gotta ask you guys. I don't know why. I think I do. China to the United States. Stop plundering Syrian resources. Pull troops out. So they're going to continue to flex and call out the United States for the humanitarian contradictions and lead the world as the leader. Like the Saudi Arabia-Iran thing is such a huge shift because it shows that U.S. influence in that region is dying. That's why Saudi Arabia made a mockery of Joe Biden when he visited them. And now Saudi Arabia, when when Putin came, there was a grand spectacle. It was like, oh my God, Putin, it's so great to see you. Then when the United States Biden came, all right, motherfuckers, all right, what the fuck y'all want? You know what I mean? So now China is showing how powerful they are because remember, this happened because China is the largest importer of oil. And they do great business with Iran and Saudi Arabia. And unlike the United States, they're not lecturing and being hypocrites on Saudi Arabia and pulling out of agreements and deals with Iran. So Iran is like, bro, if you don't like the United States, I fuck with you. That's been Iran fuck with Russia.
Essentially,
I fuck with China. I fuck with Venezuela. Iran fuck with anyone who don't fuck with the United States, and that's their goddamn right because Iran has been extremely patient. I spare you guys. I did this lecture so many times, but between the Iran deal, between the sanctions, the United States pulled out of the Iran deal, kept the sanctions on, and then they kept going after Iran for enriching their uranium, even though that's the deal they pulled out of. You had Donald Trump that instilled a hardline policy on Iran. Biden took over, and Anthony Blinken doubled down on that policy. And in an interview, I covered this a few months ago, we said, there are a lot of things we disagree with Trump on. That's a lie. He just said that for political purposes. But he said there are a lot of things we disagree with Trump on, but they had the right approach with Iran. There's no two parties, guys. There's a one-party machine here. And I'll wrap my segment with that.
Actually, I'm adding to this segment because I actually had this prep for a segment, but since you're talking about it, let's bring it up. It's about 2 minutes of Ben Norton talking about this that just recently happened, how China brokered this. This is the difference. The difference in the United States approach and China approach.
China surprised the world this March with an incredible announcement. It had helped to negotiate peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. These are two countries in West Asia, the so-called Middle East, that did not even have formal diplomatic relations for 7 years. They were basically at war with each other. And the United States had been pressuring Saudi Arabia to join it in its so-called maximum pressure campaign against Iran, which really amounts to a kind of hybrid war or unconventional war against Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia and Iran have signed peace talks, and China is talking about further helping to integrate Asia and especially working toward increasing their economic ties. And today I'm going to talk about how this can be a geopolitical game changer. And not only in terms of helping to bring peace to West Asia, the so-called Middle East, which is a region that has suffered from constant U.S. wars and destabilization and intervention. But even more significantly, in my view, is what this means for oil and specifically the petrodollar. Since the 1970s, the vast majority of oil in the global market has been sold in U.S. dollars. And this has been one of the ways in which the U.S. has been able to maintain the hegemony of the U.S. dollar after removing its links to gold in 1971 with the Richard Nixon.
Now, I don't want him to belabor the point. He's going to get to it. But the point being, BRICS is rising, Nick. Nick, BRICS is rising. Iran, it has, so this sort of their issue with Saudi Arabia, who's also interested in BRICS. Look at what they're building. Look at like BRICS. Like BRICS is made up of the vast majority of OPEC nations. You see this. You see this of BRICS building that is happening here, and that's what Ben sort of points out when he says about the petrodollar. Because Saudi Arabia has already been talking about taking oil and other currencies like Chinese currency. So now we want to see this, but understand people in the United States, you're going to feel this, because once this collapse of the dollar, or once the collapse, and it's not going to collapse overnight, well, once this shakeup, this multipolar world comes, like that affects us, like our standard of living, how we're getting all these cheap products so low, and how our pay is so low. It's going to hit a brick wall when we start to feel this. Like, people don't even understand, Nick. But I didn't want to play the whole video, just the first part, to kind of just give everybody the groundwork of this is what China's doing, man. This is ridiculous. The U.S. didn't see this miles away.
Yeah, I'm gonna interject the video, and then I'll pass it to you, because I want to do this on another show, but I ran out of time. But I think it's a good time since you mentioned how BRICS is expanding. I read this tweet, but I didn't get a chance to play the video before. But this is Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Algeria, Argentina, Mexico, and Nigeria are among the latest countries that are interested to join BRICS. So let's watch the video, and then I end the segment after the video.
Priority areas that we have signaled as part of our BRICS mandate.
Plans for expansion, looking to get more
expansion.
members.
That's a big debate.
That's about BRICS expansion.
As you know, the 5 countries came together as a progressive forum. There's a lot of commonality. India and South Africa experienced colonialism and came out of it. Brazil.
You see how she mentioned the thing that ties these BRICS countries together? That is stronger than any ideology. Like, what is stronger? What ideology is stronger than the united principle that you guys suffered through Western imperialism? Like, we suffered through this shit together, and that's why we gotta go through this shit together.
It's what brought enslaved Africans and indigenous people together for a new tribes that was formed that made up of enslaved. Because what brought them together? The same white oppressor, the same white person that's bringing a genocide upon their people. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah.
India and South Africa experienced colonialism and came out of it. Brazil has had experience of, fighting for democracy. They had many military coups and so on. Now they're a strong democratic nation. China has come out of a very difficult period of poverty. And Russia, of course, has had to withstand the Second World War and other experiences. So we come from a history of struggle and have come together to try and shape a common global agenda. Now,
they are united by their past struggles with imperialists, but people like Anthony Blinken think they can go into a meeting and sweet talk these people and to think the United States has the best interest. What do you think is more powerful, the charisma of the Biden administration or the shared experience of these countries that have been victims of imperialism? Let's continue.
Now, when you have people interested in joining your organization, one of the first questions is, do they reflect our characteristics and interests? So while we are ready to discuss expansion, we believe that it's very important that we shape a set of criteria that we would utilize to look at the various countries that are interested. I think it's a plus for BRICS that there are countries that say we want to join you, and they're actually writing everywhere we go. We are asked about this, so it will be something our leaders will discuss at the summit in August, and after that we'll have guidance from them.
But how many countries have sent you the
invite that you want to be? On my desk, I think I have 12 letters.
12 letters?
Damn.
And I suspect other foreign ministers have had approaches from their own regions. Yeah.
And remember, AMLO, I ended the clip there. AMLO from Mexico
Yeah, I had another segment on that one too. Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead. Speak on it.
Yeah, after AMLO decided he wanted to join BRICS, all of a sudden you got right-wing commentators that said we need to send the military down there to fight the cartels. The cartels have been there for years. Now they want to send the military there.
What's the timing on that? I've been because I was gonna have a segment on that, and not necessarily a segment, just bring it up. But what's the timing? With Mexico, did the kidnappings happen first, or was AMLO speaking about this? Because it seems like maybe the AMLO spoke about it, and then the kidnapping happened. But what is the kidnapping being used as a way of them saying military intervention into Mexico? Is the question? Yeah. So whether it's real or not. Whether the United States is involved in that so-called killing, or whether it's an actual kidnapping. I'm sorry, not killing, kidnapping. Whether it's an actual kidnapping is irrelevant. Their empire is using it, whether it's real or not, in order to say let's do military intervention because now Mexico is talking about some fucking bricks. That's from their point of view. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this probably was something they've been planning for a while, and now they just ramped it up because of the BRICS conversation. Because AMLO criticized the NATO agenda. AMLO led the coalition to condemn the United States for the Cuban embargo. AMLO also led the coalition that criticized the United States for their involvement in Venezuela. So AMLO has been actually a surprise. Like a lot of people didn't have that. They knew he was like more of a social democrat leftist, but people did not expect him being a Mexican president. Usually Mexican presidents don't have the freedom to resist U.S. empire like South American presidents usually do. So it was a big surprise to see Lula speak out against the United States. It's like almost like he woke up like, fuck these motherfuckers. Like it's weird because he has been extremely I've seen people who was critical of AMLO like, damn, this motherfucker come out hot with this, especially with the Cuba embargo, the side with Venezuela, the criticism of NATO, and he's been advocating countries like Nicaragua and others in Central America and South America for more of a political coalition against the United States. So now all this shit's been happening, and now all of a sudden they start caring about Mexican kidnappings, and all of a sudden the cartel's out of control again. So I don't believe it's a coincidence. If you guys do, that's fair, but my mind just don't work that way. And that's not the way my mind works personally. But CJ, I'll pass you. I'm done with segments for today. I'll pass it.
Yeah, I got a couple. They're not long at all. Quickly hit that like button. We hit 500 people. Let's make sure we get to 500 likes. Everybody hit that like button. Is absolutely much appreciated. And we got to start shouting out our Patreon. Patreon's down at the bottom. We get new members all the time, and that is the best way to offer any financial help you're able to contribute to RBN. The other way, RBN YouTube memberships. Thank you for all of that. Subscribe to our Substack if you want to get notifications when we go live. And last thing, where's it at? Our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. And lastly, our email, info@revblacknetwork.com. All right, so we're getting to those 500 likes.
Sorry, CJ, you mind if I read this comment real quick? Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
I always leave this out when talking about AMLO. I need to start adding this more. Because AMLO is nationalizing the oil and gas as well. He's been big.
I forgot. Yeah, that's great.
I need to start bringing that up more because that's something else that the U.S. empire is not happy with. But sorry, CJ, that's a good comment, Jennifer.
Well, you know what, everybody, we'll make sure cover AMLO, or at least do a segment or dedicated to AMLO where we can tell everybody about him, because you know, people are starting to talk to him a lot more, and he's a surprise. Would you say he's to the left of Lula? Would you describe him that way, Nick? Or would you?
Maybe. I'll put them in the same. I'll put them in the same tier. I think AMLO. I think AMLO probably been better. I think AMLO been better recently. That's what I'll say. But I think I'll put them in the same category as mostly social democrats. Well, apparently like AMLO called for nationalization, so I need to like put that in my. So I say yes, AMLO. I think AMLO probably better.
Okay. All right, so let's get to this one. Chris Hedges brings on Kshama Sawant. Now, remember, you brought this up. He was like, what independent news organization bringing up?
I'll check your audio. You're muted real quick.
Yeah, sorry, my thing muted. I'm gonna okay, there it goes. You mentioned Jimmy Dore, you mentioned RBN, and here is the Real News Network where Hedges bringing on Kshama Sawant to highlight worker strike back. Now, Chris also appeared at the same Seattle.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say, just as a selfish reason, I'm mad that you just sent the video in, because I wish Chris Hedges was there for my speech. I always want to pick his brain, but it's good that Chris Hedges, he wrote an article in the Substack as well. I don't know if you saw it, where he talked about how important worker strike back is.
Oh, well. Absolutely.
That's how you know someone who is serious. Like, that's how you know someone who's serious, is someone who propping up these actions, which Chris Hedges do all the time. That's why, even if I had criticism of the strategy, I'm so disgusted by Marianne Williamson, because I'm like, you pick her? Let's say I disagree with the strategy. Like, Chris Hedges would never run as a Democrat, right? Because he ran as the I before he advocated for that strategy. But at least as Chris Hedges ran as a Democrat, I was criticized just the strategy. But you see how we criticize Marianne Williamson's policies on this stuff? I'd be like, well, I'm glad that Chris Hedges is running, but I just don't like the strategy. But it's good that we got someone who's good on the empire. No, Marianne's ass. Like, the boutique left is ass. Like, Chris Hedges is someone you should be trying to promote as your leader, not someone like fucking Marianne Williamson. But let's continue.
Absolutely. So let's listen now. We're not listening to it because I knew we wouldn't have it. So I kind of queued it up. It's about midway through the entire where they start to talk some interesting things we can discuss now. So let's listen.
Let's talk about the Democratic Party. Biden calls himself a pro-labor president. Maybe you can mention what happened to the freight rail workers. But the Democratic Party essentially works hand in glove with the corporate community to prevent labor unions and most of all to prevent strikes. That's what they did with the freight rail unions, which actually is one of the few groups of workers that retain the right to collective bargaining. The Biden administration took it away.
Yes, it was a deeply shameful moment for President Biden and all the Democrats in Congress who went along with it to carry out, as you said, historically shameful strike-breaking action by breaking the railroad workers' strike. And in fact, to keep in mind how it's almost Dickensian, this situation that was faced. You on the one hand, you have billionaires like Warren Buffett, who are the main owners of the freight railroads. These are the railroad bosses. And on the other hand, you have railroad workers who are facing very dangerous working conditions, even facing loss of life, injury, repeated cases of injury. And what were they demanding? Just basic paid sick leave. And here in the 21st century, in the wealthiest country in the history of humanity, these workers are having to fight for these basic needs. And what you saw was the complete betrayal by this so-called pro-labor president. But we have to be clear. I mean, if we are going to be clear about the Democratic Party, then we also have to call out the role played by the so-called progressives. I mean, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, so-called progressive as I call them, the Congressional Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party in U.S. Congress is 100 strong. The chair of that caucus is Pramila Jayapal, again, another so-called progressive. And then you have all these members of the so-called squad who were elected with these high expectations that they will show courage in the face of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the power brokers on behalf of Wall Street. And what you have seen again and again is repeated betrayals of working people. The betrayal of the railroad workers and the breaking of their strike obviously was one of the starkest moments that I think really crystallized for millions of people. And obviously, I am aware that there are many well-meaning people who still may have illusions, but it's our duty to clarify to them that, look, this is what happened, and we cannot.
We speak specific to the strike, but to her point, and she said this on the show, we have to be here to point out the contradictions, and that's what went with Marianne Williamson. Now people get it now, but we were getting the questions. Why y'all going so hard on Marianne? I don't know. You might still be getting it, but like on the main account, I don't see them questioning that. Or I get a lot of people giving us props. You guys are doing God's work by calling out Marianne Williamson, because we're not gonna let people get on this bandwagon. Like we're getting out in front of this, but she's speaking to that point. And Marianne Williamson is just a reincarnation every season of the same thing. Bernie Sanders played it in 2020. Yep. We think he was, but he did. And Marianne Williamson is it for this year. You want to chime in before I go back?
That's why one of the first things I brought up was my critique of the Bernie campaign, because it's like if you can't even critique Bernie, which Marianne Williamson refused to do, she's still proud of Bernie, the Bernie wing of the party. Hell, there's even a clip going around where she was like, where she praised Elizabeth Warren. If you don't know the critique of people like Elizabeth Warren, if you don't know the critique of AOC and Bernie Sanders, that means you are looking to replicate that. And this is the thinking that the boutique left who pushed her don't even think about. So if you at least understood the criticism of Bernie, like, all right, I see this mistake you made. Your point here with working class funds, that makes sense. That we can at least have a starting point. There's no starting point because they look at Bernie in the sellout of the Bernie movement, and she still thinks it's a serious movement and campaign that she want to be part of. It's beyond sad, and it's sad that people still trying to lie to people that she has a strong chance that the working class should invest in this. And now you see why she told people not to vote for her when I interviewed her, when I asked her about the question about money, because she's tweeting and donate every goddamn day. It was not in her best interest as a politician to come on RBN and say, yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I don't think the working class should donate to me. I agree with you. I think it's a waste of resources for us to engage in electoral politics. For her best interest, she decided to not say that because she is running a grift. And the only people who don't see that are her friends and the people who are drunk by access journalism. But let's continue, CJ.
Absolutely.
Not just keep thinking that at some point, somewhere, something is going to change. And finally, the Progressive, the Democratic Party will do something for working people. But, because they're not, we're seeing repeatedly betrayals from them. And now we're seeing the brutal consequences from the Democrats siding with the railroad tycoons. I mean, we're seeing this apocalyptic scenario unfolding in East Palestine, Ohio.
None of the boutique left is making this connection about them squashing the strike. And we made segments and we trying to yell at the rooftop that their hands are not clean. They don't come into this. They have blood on their hands, figuratively, have blood on their hands with this freaking derailment, because the strike that you broke was actually directly going to the scheduling tool or scheduling program they have to address not enough people on it, to address all of these safety needs that they have. So great that she makes the connection here.
And and so the only way we can come out of this really tragic situation, not only in East Palestine, but all the living standards that have stagnated and slid back for the majority of American working class, a non-starter for us to change anything is if we continue putting our faith in the Democratic Party.
A non-starter. Isn't that what we're saying about Marianne Williams? That's a non-starter.
Yeah.
And Nick, we had you said they're showing their faces right now. We had people for several months. Round general strike. Fuck the Democrats. As soon as the fucking shit starts to happen, well, maybe she sounded pretty good. And then we're still going hard. And they're like, wait a minute, RBN, that was fine 6 months ago when there was no candidate. But now I want to go ahead and vote for Democrats. They thought we was joking.
They thought we was bullshit like they was. People were like, oh, we're done with the Democrat, we're done with the Democrat. They followed the TYT model where they like, we're done with the Democrat, we're done with the Democrat. Then let's go, oh, I think this will work. And then they saw us still go hard. They're like, no, nigga, you don't get, we're supposed to be reining it in now. They're confused that we're like, no, we meant that shit. We wasn't
they
doing
think it's steps. They think it's steps that we just keep redoing. Like, hey, come on, man, we on step 5. You stuck on step 4. Like, we're on step 5. Come on. Man, it's like, no, man, it's it. So they think that, like, every year we go through our disappointment, we go through our bump stage, we go through our infighting stage, then we go through our vigorous stage, then we go back and we're back. They think that it's just a cycle we just keep repeating. And no, we're like, no. This was real. A real break. This happened after this pandemic, 2020, 21, 22. This is a real break.
And I know you saw the people who try to make friends with us. Come on, man, be nice to Marianne. Come on, you guys want to help me? Nah, nigga, y'all miscalculate what this shit was about. You gotta miscalculate. Like this shit is, we done with this. But you go ahead and continue, CJ.
Yeah, I'll continue a little more. Spitting some fire here. Kshama and Chris.
And there's another very dangerous component for the left failing to build a new party for the working class and the Democrats continuing to sell out working people is that the threat of the growth of right populism is still.
And this what makes a third party, Nick, more important than trying to build within the Democratic Party, is because of the growth of fascism in both parties, to be quite honest, but in particular in the red team. And it's be specific because the Democrats are not delivering, which means that we need a party that delivers, at least fights.
Yeah, we need fights. Yeah, we need opposition to that fascism, what the liberals are not. That's why it don't make sense when people say, "Oh my God, aren't you worried about Republicans?" Like, nigga, that's why we need a third party. We talking about there's no opposition if you go the other way. Like,
right?
They only get stronger. But let's continue, CJ.
Still hanging in the air because workers are angry. They're going to be looking for alternatives, and in the absence of a genuine left alternative, they are going to end up getting scapegoated by right populism. In fact, in the wake of the sellout by Biden, some railroad workers feel like, well, you know what? I'm going to just maybe end up voting for Trump next time because what else is there for me to do? And Trump came to power in the first place because there was such massive anger against the betrayals by.
Yeah, those that act like they don't understand why. How did we get Trump after Obama? Like, how did that happen?
People still tweet that shit out, man.
Funny. All right, she's summing it up in just a couple more minutes here.
Both the Democratic and Republican Party, and unfortunately, Trump ran. I mean, he was a con man through and through. He's a member of the billionaire class, but he ran with this idea, the false idea that he was going to represent ordinary people, but obviously he didn't. But the threat of Trumpism and right populism, far from gone, is actually growing. And then the other thing I think to note is how when we were calling, when sections of the left and socialist alternative and you and others were calling for force the vote, the squad members like AOC said, you can't do that. And now we are seeing the rightmost and some of the most dangerous right-wing Republicans like the Freedom Caucus, not to mention the MAGA squad within the Freedom Caucus, they showed that force the vote can be done, except they showed it from the right. And I have to say, it's really just terrible that in response to the left asking, ordinary people asking, well, the right wing showed how to do force the vote. What stopped you from doing force the vote for Medicare for all? Unfortunately, AOC's response was that we can't do that because it will cause relational harm. And actually, I think that was a rare moment of political honesty, because what she really means, and this is true, what she means is that it is a relational harm, meaning if your priority is to keep cozy relationships with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, then you're not going to fight for working people because that will cause conflict between you.
Yeah, it was such a I'm being honest moment, but because she was trying to talk on the fly. And when she does that, in particular, AOC, she has these glimpses of truth. And then she has to double back. And this is why it's this is how it ends up being a worse Sally, because she has to keep going back to cover what she said. But this saying relational harm, what do you mean relational harm? The only relation you should care about is the relation to you and the working people. So what do you mean with she's literally talking about Pelosi and leadership.
Yep. And her friends at MSNBC, who she's very friendly with now, right? The establishment where they get her invites at the Met Gala and get her magazine covers. And this is just a brutal line of attack by Kshama. And I told Kshama this when we was talking. I was like, I love the fact that you never let her live that shit down, because she mentioned it in her speech as well. And if you pay attention, Kshama always bring that shit like, soon AOC said that shit, and Kshama was like, you said what? Like, you said it out loud. Like, Kshama told she couldn't even believe that AOC said that shit. So Kshama never gonna let her live that down because that quote sums up the squad and the failure of the progressive movement in a nutshell. They're not, like you said it perfectly. They're not worried about their relationship with us. They disappoint us all they want. Remember, Nina Turner said, you're gonna be disappointed with me. But when it comes to their Democratic relationships, ooh, they will never want to fuck that up.
They ain't fucking that up at all.
Let's show who they work for. But let's continue.
And people like Pelosi and Biden, you will become public enemy number one to them. But that is what is needed. We need leaders on the left for
we
working.
want relational. That's the thing. That's a great point. She turns around with this in the very next sentence and say, we want relational harm. We want them to be upset. That's literally the goal. Like, you need to be militantly adversarial, not nicing up. Like, what has nicing up to these people gotten? What is nicing up to an imperialist bully do, Nick? Have you ever tried to be nice to a bully? Does that change a bully? Does being nice change a bully, Nick? It doesn't. Being nice, people try this all the time to be nice to bullies. It doesn't change their behavior at all. So just the idea is ridiculous. Go ahead, Nick.
And do you think the people who are actually allowed to fight for their constituency gives a fuck whether they are liked or not? For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene is going around Congress caring about her relationships that she has with these people? No, she don't. A lot of people don't like her. Mitt Romney hates her. Lindsey Graham, these establishment Republicans hate her. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is standing there on her committee seat like, y'all niggas can die mad. I'm on my committee seat. Guess who not on powerful committees? The progressives in the squad. And they cared about the relationships. You guys see the problem here? The people who don't care about relationships, like Joe Manchin on his committees don't give a fuck. Like, y'all niggas don't like me, but I'm on this committee seat though. Martin Taylor Greene, like, y'all don't like me, but I'm on this committee seat though. Meanwhile, progressives, they care about all the relationships, but they don't have any power. The Biden administration and the Democratic Party often gives them the finger. Meanwhile, they care about the relationships. And that's why I don't think they are good faith actors, because who is in Washington? They're trying to lose as bad as the progressives are. Pramila Jayapal's and AOC and Ilhan's job is to be the loser, to emasculate and embarrass the left and the working class. Anyway, let's continue.
Absolutely. We can go on for that on that one.
Yeah,
Working people who have the courage to become public enemy number one of the ruling class and understand that actually that is necessary in order to fight for working people.
I just want to throw in that part of the contract negotiations for the freight railroad workers was addressing the lack of safety that they warned precisely that because they had downsized or fired so many workers and reduced crews to skeletal levels, and then we're also not instituting even basic safety reforms. They completely predicted this horrific chemical spill we've seen in Ohio.
Oh, absolutely. You're totally right, Chris, that, the demands of the railroad workers were connected with the actual conditions. And this was a completely predictable and avoidable catastrophe that has happened in East Palestine, Ohio. And in fact, many of your viewers might know already that these freight magnates, the billionaires, they, their agenda is to expand profits, obviously. So they introduced a concept that they call precision scheduled railroading. I mean, it sounds something sophisticated, but that's just, precision scheduled railroading, or PSR, is just corporate speak for let's make everything as crappy as we can get away with for railroad workers and working class people as a whole, and take the maximum loot for the billionaires, the major shareholders, and the top executives.
This is why Kshama is such a great advocate. I'm going to stop there and show you the Russell Brand video next before we get out of here. This is why she just such a great advocate, and this is what she clearly illustrate what AOC and Bernie Sanders is not. Talking about these capitalists, this coming and taking a loot and running off. They don't describe that people that in their leadership that way. They call him Mama Bear in hopes of getting committee assignments. You get what I'm saying? Getting committee assignments so they can do what? Ilhan Omar had a committee assignment and she sold out the people in the Horn of Africa. So what does that do? Like, what does that do? That doesn't do anything to give them that. But any last words on Kshama and Chris Hedges and what she had to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, last thoughts. And you guys see Kshama in her ability to rhetorically destroy the boutique left, the NATO left, the squad, LC. That's why they avoid her. That's why they avoid her. I talked to many people on Worker Strike Back, talked to Kshama herself. They reached out to a lot of these people in the boutique left. You had Nina Turner, who booked Kshama Sawant for a conversation. One of her, I assume, interns, one of Nina Turner's interns who heard what Kshama Sawant had to say, like, oh, we should have her on our show. They booked Kshama, and then Nina Turner then figured out, like, hell nah, and canceled.
What?
So once again, they Worker Strike Back.
Weak as fuck. That's weak as fuck, man.
Worker Strike Back, they don't talk shit like we do. That's our job. So they're here to be nice. They want to maintain relationships. But I am here to say what they really want to say. All these people who had criticism against the Rage Against the War Machine rally, the March Against Medicare for All, as we said then, that was bullshit. Because this was a straight up socialist rally. A socialist movement. And Kshama told me before I gave my speech, she said this is not even a socialist event. This is more like a college campus event that we hosted. We launched doing our launch here. So she said, by the way, there's gonna be a lot of liberals and Democrats in the audience. And you guys see the liberals and Democrats cheer from you. But anyway, that's another point. But the point is, it wasn't even like a scumbag left event, as they would say. It's not even like a scumbag left event. This is a socialist organization, labor event that had union leaders. I don't know if you guys saw. I don't know if they posted the full video yet. They said they would. But a lot of speakers or people who are literally in union struggle right now. Right now, they had leaders. This is my event. This is the history of the event. They didn't want to talk to them. They didn't want to organize with those people. They didn't want to organize with libertarians. And they didn't want anything to do with Kshama Sawant because of her criticism of the squad and Bernie. You guys see these exceptions that they put on organizing? My question is, who does this benefit? They don't want you to organize with anyone who have criticism of Bernie and the squad. That's why they don't show it to Kshama Sawant. I also think, because I was speaking there, and they all hate me, they didn't want to give any publicity to any event I was at, but it's more than me. It's way bigger than me, obviously. They know who Kshama is. They hear her message, and they are rejecting her from the club. Rejecting her from the club because she refused to sell out. Anyway, that's my final thoughts on this segment. Because remember, Kshama was supportive, just like I was. She was supportive of the Bernie movement. But unlike a lot of the Bernie industrial complex sellouts who, like, they looked at Kshama like, wait, you don't know we're not supposed to keep the radical energy going. That's only for the grift. Like, after the shit over, we're supposed to calm down. Don't tell niggas no Democrat. Kshama wasn't following that path. She's like, no, I'm gonna keep the work going. I'm gonna keep the social activities going. And that got her blacklisted. Well, she's not gonna complain about it because she's a professional. Worker Strike Back not gonna complain about it because they're professional. They're professional. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make the argument that they're not allowed to make. And they are being blacklisted by the boutique left. And that's why I gave props to Jimmy. Because Jimmy had him. Jimmy Dore had Kshama on. Chris Hedges obviously had Kshama on. So Sabby and RBN Network, there's so many spotlights on this. Boutique left, the people who claim to love labor, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Anyway, that's my last thoughts on the segment. I pass it for you, CJ, and this will be my last one for the day.
Okay, so
I go super chats. I need a chance to get ready. I do super chats.
Yeah, go ahead. You can do that.
Yeah, thank you for the $5, Dominic Morrow. I'm going to apply for a job as bank CEO. I'm pretty sure I can crash a bank in less than 5 to 8 years. And the thing is, you don't need any training for that job. Because imagine you had a job as a bank CEO. It doesn't matter if you are successful or you fail. If you're successful, that's good. If you fail, you're just following the industry. So, man, that's such a great gig. Only the working class is reprimanded for being failures. Politicians, they can lie, they can fail. Oh, it's all good. Managers, they can lie, fail. They can fail to the point where they can lay their workers off. And people still like, it's fine. Just fine what you did there. Laying motherfucking workers off for shit that you're supposed to be in charge of. They say the managers make more money than the laborers because the managers keep the roof on the head. Then when the managers fuck up, guess who get laid off? The laborers. These are the kind of questions I ask CJ. Like as someone who's a member of the working class working that never make any sense to me. Anyway, let's continue. Thanks for the 200 SEK mark. Appreciate the super chat. Reach out to Crespin on the Andrew Marr show to get the temp on UK. Get the temperature on the UK. I see what you're saying. He's doing both domestic UK stuff, but also international. Good left show. I know general UK politics. Like I especially tuned out UK politics at the whole Jeremy Corbyn thing. After that, like the whole Jeremy Corbyn thing, him getting booted out of the Labour Party, and then we revealed that Labour did that on purpose because Jeremy Corbyn was too fucking real for the establishment. And there's criticism of Jeremy, don't get me wrong, but he was a staunch advocate of the Palestinian Palestinian people, which Labour was weak on. They called him an anti-Semite for that. He took positions that the party and Labour would not take on war on empire, and that's why Mike Foster and a lot of independent organizers want to draft him into the new party for working class people. But after the Jeremy Corbyn shit happened, I was like, y'all, damn, UK is fucked, son. UK is fucked because the left party is straight up hijacked and ran by neocons. So I don't know nothing about UK politics. I can't even suggest like what they can do. Like, you know, that's how I'll touch with them. So I do need to learn more about UK. That's why the workshop I did in Seattle was super interesting because the guy was talking a ton about UK politics, and I actually learned a lot literally just that day. Thank you for the $100, Landrew. If only we could vote for Kshama Sawant, I would have hope again. Thank you for the very generous super chat.
Yeah, me too.
Landrew,
Me too.
as always.
Thanks, Landrew.
Yeah.
Hook them up in the. They were when they saw it. People were already shouting them out, but let's give them some more love in the comments.
Yeah, I see. This is Savvy friend.
Yeah,
So
I put that up because of Savvy.
Yeah.
That was Savvy. Yeah.
Yeah, this came a little bit early. I'm assuming, with the exception of Jimmy. This is what I was saying. Large channels didn't even mention worker strike back, and you guys think I'm gonna let them forget that? Nope. I got a long memory. I got a long ass memory. They're gonna keep hearing about this. And this is what RBN's here for. We're gonna put pressure on these people. We always see people tiptoeing around Marianne Williamson. I want to put pressure. I want them to do it, even if they hate us. I want them to be like, "Fuck, I got to cover mutual aid because I want RBN to be on their ass." Right? You know what I mean? If they cover mutual aid because they don't want to be criticized by me, and they still hate me, that's a victory. You cover mutual aid because of me, whether you want to admit it or not. You're more critical of the Democratic Party because of us. Jordan, I gave Jordan credit for an interview on Marianne Williamson. He did a great job on that interview. Also, because RBN was calling these motherfuckers out for access journalism. I know that sounds self-absorbed, but I swear to God, I've seen so many of these easy interviews, and now we calling these people out for access journalism. So I hope people are more willing to give these harder interviews, which is good.
And she just recently did another video. I think you retweeted it too, man, about Afghanistan. You saw that recent one.
Yeah, we cover that tomorrow. We can cover that tomorrow.
That's just terrible.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's get to this last story here. All right, so Russell Brand, and this is an older story. You may have seen it, may have not. I just saw this last night. Absolutely destroys this Lincoln project. Just, you know, turd, I guess is the nicest way I can put it. We all know who this guy is. So let's play it, and then let me know if you want to start and stop. He does cover a lot in a short 3 minutes. So let's
this is a great clip. Yeah.
Not known you long, but I love you already. But I have to say that it's disingenuous to claim that the biases that are exhibited on Fox News are any different from the biases exhibited on MSNBC. It's difficult to suggest that these corporations operate as anything other than mouthpieces for their affiliate owners in BlackRock and Vanguard. And
see, I don't know if he knew when he came on the show, exactly who Russell Brand was. Like, all of his politics, I don't necessarily agree with, if you even call him that, or his opinions. But he's going to name Raytheon. He's going to say BlackRock, people that are your friends, Lincoln Project guy. Like, he's going to say that to your face, not knowing that you might be, completely friends with these people. So I think that shocks this guy's system.
And as you watch this video, I got this question because I've seen this clip before, and this is my general, like the guy that Russell Brand is having this mini debate with. Is this really hubris? Does he really believe this, or is he acting? I am not saying that as a statement. I legitimately don't know with some of these people, because when you see this guy in this clip challenge Russell Brand, when he says name one thing MSNBC that does is corrupt. Like, there's people that do propaganda, but I feel like there's some of these people that literally buy into this shit. And when you see this clip and you see Russell Brand explain why MSNBC is so horrible, it almost like these people live in such a bubble that these explanations and these political analysis, they never even consider. That's why I'm leaving with the question: are they really this dumb? Are they really this naive, or are they just playing a role? Or is this guy really acting? I mean, does he really believe that MSNBC is better than Fox News, or is he acting? because I see both. I honestly I don't know how to take.
Yeah, we ask this question all the time. I think I asked it to you one time. I was watching a Joe Scarborough. It's like sometimes it's like because it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's unbelievable that you believe that, and then other times it's like I can't genuinely detail if you really believe this in because you have either you're that good or you really believe this.
Actor. I see some people say actor in the comments. I respect your point of view, and the only reason why I don't say actor 100% because I'm like, dude, are these people better actors than Hollywood? Like, you know, like the great, it's like this acting job. I don't know. Let's continue the video. You guys may see what I'm talking about and we can come to the conclusion after the clip finishes. Like, does he really believe this, or is he playing a role? Because it seemed like he's in this video when I watched it. It seemed like he legitimately like shocked at what Russell Brand is saying. But CJ, when you get there, we can continue.
Yes, go ahead.
And unless we start to embrace, and also, mate, like just spiritually, if I may use that word in your great country, we have to take responsibility for our own perspectives. I've been on that MSNBC, mate. It was propagandist crackery on there. I went on a show called Morning Joe. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Morning Joe.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, he calls out Morning Joe.
Anyone know they're the worst? They're the worst. They're so bad it's good. Like it's so bad. Their propaganda is so bad to me. It's worthwhile to watch it just so I know what the Empire is saying. You know what I mean? That's how bad Morning Joe is. But let's continue because this is.
But I absolutely laugh through Morning Joe. There's not a Morning Joe 3-hour episode that doesn't go by that I'm not laughing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like it's so ridiculous. Like in serious segments, like they don't mean to be jokey, right? So, but let's continue.
Ability for our own perspective. I've been on that MSNBC, mate. It was propagandist crackery on there. I went on a show called Morning Joe. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Morning Joe.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't morning. There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine American heroes like Edward Snowden. No one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he's suffered trying to bring real journalism.
You see the pain that the guy on the left is going through? He's literally going through pain.
And now that A. Ross mentioned this guy is on Morning Joe a lot. I can't believe I didn't make that connection until now. He's on. So Russell Brand called Morning Joe, and this guy starts suffering internally.
Yes, he's like rocking back and forth. He's like, oh man, he said Morning Joe. He said that. Yes. I'm loving it. Now I must admit, because I wanted to watch this. This is my first time watching this. Like I saw a 30-second clip and I'm like, you know what? I want the whole thing. And I got the whole thing. So a lot of this is new. 30 seconds of it I've seen of this 3-minute clip. So, but let's listen.
Willing to stick up for genuine American heroes like Edward Snowden. No one was willing to.
Oh, sorry. I didn't go back far enough. I want you to see him rocking back and forth when he mentions Morning Joe here. He's really in pain. He tries not to laugh. He laughs at the first joke and then he catches himself. Yes.
There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine American heroes like Edward Snowden. No one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he's suffered trying to bring real journalism to the American people. And
he is hurting.
To sit within the castle of MSNBC throwing rocks at Fox News is ludicrous. Make MSNBC better. Make MSNBC great again.
My friend, I would. The moment the
on a territory you can win on, Joe.
Russell, darling. The moment that you give me a specific example, an actual example.
Okay, I'll give you.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know he's acting, right? But if you know you're acting, you know you're not in the right. Why will you ask that question? That is such an easy knockdown. That's why there's a part of me that. Does he believe this shit? Like, does he believe that will shut Russell Brand down? You know what I mean? Or is he just that much of a fool to think that most people be shut down by this easy question? Like, when you ask
I literally think he doesn't know Russell Brand's work enough.
Yeah,
I don't think he knows that. So he's banking on the fact I go on these shows all the time and I say this and nobody can come up with reason and nobody can do anything. You know, I'm thinking he's just fluff like me. I'm fluff on here. So why would I'm on an internet show? This guy can't know all the facts about everything about the empire, possibly. So give me an example. He doesn't know this guy's probably going to ramble. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
He's probably gonna
I can,
ramble off
like
stuff.
he does a good job, because like if you ask me that question, like name one example of MSNBC line, I'm gonna be like, bro, how much time do you have? how much time do we have on this segment? Hold up, we can get into Russiagate, we can get into Ukraine, we can get into Afghanistan, we can get to so many fucking things. Julian Assange, to this day, MSNBC and Mika Brzezinski says that the United States is going after Julian Assange because he helped Donald Trump win. That's not what the fucking charge is about. They lie about that all the time on MSNBC. They do that to trick the liberals. They bring up 2016 and Trump every Julian Assange segment, even though they had nothing to do. He getting charged with war crimes. So it's like so many times, like, where do I even fucking start with this shit? But let's continue. Let's see how Russell Brand handled this layup that he gives alone. As soon as when I saw this clip the first time, when he says this, I was like, oh, I know why this clip went viral. You gave him a layup. Like, that's a layup. But let's watch this.
Wait. We need a specific example.
Let me tell you what the specific I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear a specific example, specific example of an MSNBC correspondent or anchor being on television saying something they knew was false and we're saying behind the scenes to people, I'm about to go out and we know that the election wasn't stolen or something equivalent. But I will go out on television and say the opposite. I will lie.
When's my answer?
Oh, the audio breaking up a bit.
Give me the specific example.
I understand the basic point.
Give me a specific example.
All right.
I'm with you. I think it's a false equivalency, Russell.
It's
It's
not about bias. It's a false equivalency because you don't actually know anything about any of these organizations you're talking about. Even on MSNBC ones, big fucking deal.
My darling, it was more than enough.
You can't come out.
You put it back to him.
You have a single actual fact.
Do you want an example? Yes. The ludicrous, outrageous criticisms of Joe Rogan around ivermectin, deliberately referring to it as a horse medicine when they know it's an effective medicine.
Yeah, that's
what
not a bad
Rachel
example.
Maddow turning
Now
up
you
on
interrupted
TV saying
me.
if you take this vaccine, you're not going to get it when it hasn't been clinically trialed for transmission.
Non-responsive.
You have to listen.
Wait.
Do you think you can
You're doing the same thing that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was doing to Matt Taibbi when they know they're in the wrong, so they start interrupting them. At this point, he's panicking because maybe he's smart enough to realize he gave him a layup. He like fuck. So now he start interrupting them, hoping to not only slow down his point but to kill his point. But let's just continue because that's why he's not allowing him to speak. It's super transparent.
Yeah, because what he realized with the ivermectin, this motherfucker knows shit.
Yeah,
and I have to make the sound unaudible where I'm talking over him so that when this clip is replayed, you can't read. This is why, like in protest too, you'll see people in the audience just stop, because they want voices on your audio where it's kind of inaudible because they know it's a clip by now. He knows by now this shit is going to be a clip with Russell Brand saying all this shit. So he's just trying to play cleanup in post-production, in other words.
And they all know that, and for anyone who doubt what Russell Brand just said there, Joe Rogan actually has Sanjay Gupta on the show, and he admitted that CNN lies about Joe Rogan. So it's one of them examples that everyone in the industry know. Like, as soon as you bring that up, like, fuck, yeah, he got us big. But let's continue.
Determinedly and avowedly condemning Fox News without acknowledging that you're participating in the same game. Did you not just listen to Bernie Sanders, someone who plainly, legitimately believes in this country and believes it's possible to change, but is bound by corruption, is bound by the lobbying system? Surely it's clear to you, Bill, as one of the great pundits and experts and comic voices, that systemic change is required. Money has to be taken out of politics. We need new political systems that genuinely represent ordinary Americans.
That guy, he is suffering so much. He is suffering. Understand, this is a regular on Morning Joe. And who is Morning Joe? That's geared to the ruling class. They're not even talking to us at all. They're talking to people who invest in Wall Street, billionaire hedge fund. That's who that's for. So he is literally in excruciating pain listening to this, talking about overthrow this system, nigga, that I'm making tens of millions of dollars. Are you fucking crazy? That's what he's thinking and why he's hurting.
so that we can overcome cultural differences. And bickering about which propagandist network is the worst is not going to save a single American life, not improve the life of a single American child, not going to improve America's standing in the world, and the world needs a strong America. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
I guarantee the producer was like, man, it might have, we thought, you know, it might have not been a good idea because they have corporate sponsors. There was some stuff that he said at the end there that I'm sure their corporate sponsors are not going to be happy about. You calling the two networks propagandists and y'all arguing over both of these things, bringing up the ivermectin when they're still on this shit. That is a big deal, and I'm glad he got all of that shit in. And it's clear because you've heard Russell Brand has always been kind of lefty, but it's clear that his time on the show has polished him politically to where he can go on these shows and break it down in a smaller package and deliver it.
He has to retain information.
It's paying off. Yeah.
Yeah, unlike other people who interview people, he actually retain information. Like he has people like Chris Hedges on. I've seen like Aaron Monte, Max Blumenthal, a ton of anti-imperialist people on this show. And I've seen a few clips. I need to watch more of them. I just now getting caught up on the show for the most part. But he has these people on, and he's learning from these people the same way I do. And the same reason I think independent journalism is fruitful pursuit, because a lot of the time I have my international leftist coalition panels. I have a lot of these people that spit fire, the Marxist people like Q. And I was like, shit, I'm learning from these motherfuckers. You guys literally watch me learning live on stream. My original show, Rome used to preach about Marxism and organizing. I'm like, shit, you guys watch me I'm going to take school live on stream and make you a more informed communicator. And that's what happened to Russell, because he always was slightly left-leaning. Now he's a neoliberal slayer. It's a great clip. I don't know. You have anything else you want to add?
Just the same thing. I'm just in on the same thing that Russell Brand in that clip absolutely destroys, and it's great of who he destroys, because people see that ain't no just non-obscure person. That Lincoln Project guy, people are going to watch him going on Bill Maher 1 and 2 with that guy. I'm not sure he knew ahead of time he was doing that, but he got absolutely destroyed, and love that Russell Brand was able to get some of those messages out into the public. Those are my final words. Go ahead, Nick. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Well said. We can wrap there. If you guys enjoy this, make sure you guys like, share. We got RBN Live tomorrow, I believe. We may play a clip with Marianne and Williamson and Afghan women. I wonder how you gonna play that off. I feel like they got a strategy. I don't know if it's working. I have a few other stories we can get to. Nick at Night on Wednesday. I think Zoya and Andrew will be joining me for that. So a lot of great programming on RBN as usual. So make sure you guys subscribe. That's all I have, CJ. I'll pass to you for announcements or any last thing to close this out.
We'll just go out with this video. No announcements. Everybody have a great rest of your day. We'll be back tomorrow with RBN Live.
Living off of his fucking crumbs, basically, right? For a while, the Vanguard was living off of Jimmy's fucking crumbs, right? And then we had that whole fucking meltdown where we were like, okay, time to have some principles. This man's going right wing as fuck.
Time to have some principles. A year and a half into the show, you happen to have a crisis of conscience where you were no longer going to ride Jimmy Dore's coattails, because when you guys started, you were all about force the vote. You would trash the squad all the time. You were doing basically his show. In fact, as I recall, I even sent you guys a message way back then, which you also did not respond to, inviting you to do a collaboration, because I dug you guys. Hey, they're cute kids. They're trying their best. Their head's in the right place. They're saying the right things. Let's see if we can maybe work together, right? No response. Not very surprised, obviously. But at a certain point, you had a crisis of conscience when he got to a certain point where now he's too right-wing for us to follow him there. So then your little principles kicked in. Was it your principles kicking in, or did you make friends all of a sudden with Lance Bass and Sporty Spice over there, who are now your new benefactors, who you now go on shows and they come on your shows? It seems like you found a new crowd that you liked a little better than Jimmy, right? Why suck on those saggy Gen X Jimmy Dore teeth when you can suck on those perky young millennial Koslinski teeth, right? Right? That's what seems to have happened, because once you got those interviews lined up, your politics changed pretty much on a dime, and they haven't gone back since.